And I can't stop thinking about you, but what you gonna do? And you know I'm feeling good like that, so what you gonna do? And I can't stop thinking about you, but what you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do?
See me with it. See me with it.
Welcome back, everyone, to the 8th annual CCA Summer Series. This one sponsored by Nelnet Bank. I'm your host, Vaudible, at least for a little bit. Then we'll have Bass in here as well from the past, Hercules, and the most dangerous taco in the world, Danger Taco. This is going to be a great event with 16 teams in the East, 16 teams in the West to see who makes it the distance into the top 6 of their conferences to go all the way to the championships in the beginning of August. But $20,000 are on the line for these teams, and they finally have some good old Collegiate Rocket League to play this summer. Bass, how excited are you?
I'm beyond excited at this point. I have been waiting to finally kick this off. I mean, I've said this pretty much every broadcast here, whether it's the 2 qualifiers, the off-stream broadcast that we have had here between myself and Taco throughout the week so far. I'm just ready to get this started, man. I have been waiting to see collegiate competition at this level. I've been waiting to see them play against each other, and honestly, for a couple of these teams, it's their last hurrah. So I want to see what they can do with the teams that they've gotten before they go into the fall.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Herc, welcome back here as well to CCA Summer Series. You've been doing some great stuff out there, but now you're back home on the CCA channel. How does it feel to see these teams in the competition level up as you've been going about your journey?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, honestly, for as crazy as everything has been, I feel like I've made it decently apparent that I very much missed collegiate events, and I'm very, very excited to be a part of this and see it back in action. Despite all the traveling, I have been able to catch a couple of the matches on Vass and Taco's channels, so the community very much appreciates what you two have been doing. But yeah, I'm really excited to be a part of it this summer, and it's going to be a good one.
Taco, how good is Maryville?
They're very good. If anyone has not been noticing, a lot of teams, they come in a little casual. They're like, I'll play my games at my own pace. And it's like that episode of SpongeBob. It's like, it's okay. You take your time, like petting them. You'd be like, you take your games ready. No, Maryville apparently I believe yesterday, maybe a little bit on Monday, but pretty much all of Tuesday, I think played 7 games, which is effectively half of their entire schedule. And they are now, through those 7 games, 21-4 in games. So clearly they're doing great. Best team in the West already, and we're not even through week 1.
It's crazy to see exactly how things have been progressing already. I mean, there's only like a single match completed in the Eastern Conference. They're usually the ones that aren't slouches, but it is Independence Day coming up tomorrow, actually, so that might be why. Still, we do have the format we got to talk about. It's a little bit different than the last iterations of Summer Series. So if you've been with us in the long haul since 2017, welcome back. We had some open qualifiers that happened these past few weekends. Into the league play it goes, though, with a round robin as always, in the top 6 advancing, and then the championship with those top 6 per conference, a hybrid double elimination bracket where the top 4 are in the upper bracket and the rest of the teams have to battle it out to try and make it further through and claim the title of Summer Series 24 champion. And with that, I mean, we had some very intense qualifiers, Bass.
Qualifiers were, let's call it, weird to a degree here. They were relatively standard for the second one, but the first one got a couple of teams in that I think people were a bit surprised by. But it kind of makes it all the more exciting because now we've got some underdogs to root going into the rest of this event, especially in the West in particular. There's a couple of teams in the West that have snuck in a rather meaningful way. So if they can maybe shake up things, get themselves a top 6. We could be seeing them in the championship, but I think we're probably pretty clear on who's going to be making it to the championship this time, or at least what the contenders are, because, my goodness, West, you're getting a little bit top-heavy now. I don't know what it is. You let people sneak in at the bottom, but the top is just getting harder and harder to pierce through.
They're too good. They're too good. And we'll talk about the teams in just a moment, but we do have to talk about the prizing here, Herc. I mean, the prizing is what a lot of these teams have their eyes on. It's been some time since we've had some good old-fashioned prize money available for these teams and guaranteed a decent amount of money, at least being in the league itself, $300 and going up from there as long as you make it into the championships.
Yeah, this is some pretty decent prizing, especially for not having anything for so long, right? Having anything is more than nothing at this point, but like you said, $300 just for low-key showing up is not that bad. That's a solid dinner, but $1,500 is what you really want to try and get your hands out there. That's like a fun little trip to like in your state. So you
could go to Worlds. Not
could go
CRL
to
Worlds, of course,
Worlds.
but you could go to our LCS World Championship. That is happening in September, so definitely recommend that if there is a trip. But also, school's expensive, so I'm sure a lot of them are going to be using that for like 3 textbooks, and that's exactly what they will be using it for. Or 1, depending on where they go. Regardless, though, we do have to talk about these qualifiers, Taco. We saw both of them on the CCA channel. I definitely recommend it, checking those matchups back if you have the time after this broadcast itself. But looking at those matchups that we saw, I mean, any big surprise on teams who made it in or didn't make it in for you, Taco?
To be honest, well, we were doing the Champ League podcast on the Fridays, so the day before qualifiers, and we were making our predictions, and we kind of were doing pretty well all throughout the teams. The one thing that I think kind of shocked everyone is that UNLV got all the way to the upper qualifier match, did not make it in. They got all the way to the lowers and then lost to the one team that on Champ League in that pool, we were like, yeah, I think UNLV makes it in, probably through lowers. But if any other team makes it, it would probably be UT Dallas, which was the team that ended up making it. So I would say not having UNLV in is pretty shocking, considering how consistently they've not only made it into like a Western Conference League play for Summer Series, for CRL in general, but the fact that they're never like a bottom team. They're always like near the top. So the fact that they didn't even qual is wild to me.
I'm sorry, UNLV, for casting cursing you is all I will say on that one, because I literally said, oh yeah, there's no way they lose after they faced off against some tough competition in that upper bracket,
Really stacked
and then
the deck
they
against
lost.
them, yeah.
Yeah, I apologize for that one, but
Thanks,
hey,
bud.
some of them will have a chance potentially in the fall if something comes back. But regardless, though, let's talk about these teams who did qualify, Bass. Let's start in the West with you, of course, as the West representative for the most part here on Summer Series. I mean, talk to us about these West teams.
Well, the first thing you're going to notice when you look at the West is, like we've been talking about all day, that gigantic 7-0, which we are currently seeing out of Maryville University at the very top here. Look, this is not a surprise. I don't think anybody's going to look at this one and go, wow, I can't believe it. It's more the fashion in which they've gotten here. Not only have they taken down a decent amount of competition within the league, they've taken down a lot of our top candidates for this as well. One of the wins there is over a team that no one would expect. Look at 14. Boise State University, 0-1 to start this one off. A lot of familiar names also taking losses here. You can see it from LCU. You can see it from Colorado Boulder. A lot of different teams, but it's a couple other teams I want to point out that are not normally in this bracket that I really want to keep an eye on. Grand Canyon University, a team that Taco and I have talked about for a very long time, on their way up, finally made it into a CCA event. Similarly with University of Colorado Boulder, another team we just mentioned that is also incredibly capable, but this is one of their first events in a hot while. Everybody else is relatively familiar here. This is kind of all teams that we've seen, except for actually Oregon State. I didn't realize I forgot to mention them as well.
True.
Another team that snuck into this one. But otherwise, I'd say 13 of the 16 candidates here were more or less expected.
Kind of what we're used to seeing for a lot of these teams. I mean, Borrego's had a lower bracket run to speak about for the ages and made it through, taking down UBC and then making it all the way through that lower bracket in qualifier 2. And a lot of these teams who we expected to show up in qual 1, well, they did so with that. And Stockton, even a team talking about the Eastern Conference here now as well. They were a team that we were doubting. They were like, they're not as strong as they used to be. And then they show up again. It's like Stockton is inevitable. Akron is inevitable. I mean, we have some insane rosters in the Eastern Conference, but stick with the West here for one more second as well, Herc. I mean, looking at these teams and the caliber of names for the schools that are out there, I mean, what does it mean for these rosters to have something to compete in yet again for Summer Series?
Oh man, I mean, at the basic level, everybody has to sit there and be like, it means everything to have anything to compete in right now. But the fact that it has been so long since there's been an official, Rocket League event for the collegiate scene makes everything so much more important. So all these schools that are sneaking in when they've had so much time off, that's not by accident. These are teams that have had so much time to try and put, some sort of a plan together to take down some of these bigger top names, and it's happening, which makes this Summer Series that much more interesting and so much more exciting.
It truly does. And looking at Maryville specifically, I mean, they picked up Buddy instead of Calix this season. He's still on the roster, of course, but seeing that roster here with Adam as well, and now it's just great to see how this Maryville roster is looking so much stronger than they used to, where the teams that they lost to was Boise, Columbia, and St. Edwards, and they've already beat 2 out of the 3 in the first 2 days of Summer Series. So curious to see if St. Edwards can put everything up against them. But let's take a look at the East. I know there's some notable teams that have had some roster changes here, Taco, that we need to talk about.
Yeah, when you do look at a lot of different teams, obviously you're going to be saying, well, it's not too much different. You obviously see University of Akron, Akron Gold back in here, but both of them adding a new player, Akron Gold in Oxytocin, 2 player, really high rank, being able to squeak through in quality. That's nice. And joining them, obviously, is the sister team, Moist 5 Up. joining in on the
True.
Akron squad. Crazy addition to be able to kind of complete that. Obviously, Davenport, though, I think is really the talk of the town in the East. Adding in Cam coming through from the West, arguably the best West player, now coming over to East, and then Brock as well. So two incredibly high-ranked, like top 50, like 3v3 players into that roster to complete it with Bolty. They have not played yet, but I cannot wait when they start getting going in their schedule.
I mean, Bass, talk to us a little bit about these new schools that are coming in as well that people might not be as familiar with, but the players definitely familiar with if they've been paying attention to CRL, but also some of the bubble teams for RLCS.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a combination of a couple of different things here. We'll kind of go down the list. And so if you look over at which number is that? 7 here in Durham College. That's going to be one of the first ones I really want to talk about here. You guys remember Jordan from Torrent? Yeah, that's a name you probably don't remember. Maybe you remember him in Shopify Rebellion. Either way, he's back! And he was here last summer when we did this, but he took a little bit of a hiatus. Durham did not actually compete in any collegiate competitions because I believe one of their players deferred. I'm not 100% on that, but I do know they did not have their full squad for the last year or so. Now they're back. They're looking better than ever. They've qualified through the Summer Series with a upset win in many people's eyes over USM. And that's another team we got to mention here. There's no longer just one Mississippi. There are 2. Southern Mississippi has now found themselves another team for their state, and it's a good team at that. We talk about bubble players. Astro, you guys remember RLRS or maybe RLCS? He's made it into both. He's made it into Summer Series here, and he's made it with Zath and Melodic. Zath, another player people should be relatively familiar with here, considering, well, it's Zath. He played on Ball State for forever. And the other team I really want to point out here in particular would also be Davenport University, another team that has been on the fringe for a hot moment, but they have finally made it in. And why? Because they've added Brock and Cam. Yeah, Cam's pretty familiar if you've ever watched literally any CRL. A CRL national champion. He's one of the few teams from the West to be able to do it. This dude's been around the block more times than once, and he has found himself a new home at Davenport. And I want to say that's most of the teams here, besides Shawnee State, which is more or less IRSC plus Duckworth, and then looking at Syracuse, who, if you've known about Syracuse before, you know this roster. The only difference, they picked up Gababy, B-plus player, and a very solid addition that I think in most people's eyes kind of made them a top 16 candidate almost immediately.
Also Fisher College as well. Not the typical Fisher College we're used to seeing. It's where the Fisher Friends roster there as well. So a lot of great teams that are out there, but let's go over the schedule for today. We have a couple of matches here that you want to keep your eye on throughout the most of it. We have Colorado, which is CU Boulder, facing off against Monterey, Borregos, MTY. Shawnee State versus Durham, and then Illinois State versus Syracuse. These are going to be some solid matchups, and some of the first ones we're seeing in the East after Maryville just tried to run the gauntlet against almost everyone in the West so far, but this will be the first time seeing Monterey since they qualified in that second qualifier. Unfortunately for now, we don't have a 4th matchup. We might get one later on, but currently it is just going to be 3 because a lot of people enjoying their holiday that is coming up tomorrow, so it is understandable with the way things are going. But with that, this first matchup, Colorado and Monterey, I mean, Herc, talk to us a little bit about expectations for these two rosters. I mean, we've seen CU Boulder in CRL and Collegiate Rocket League for a while, but they haven't been actually in Summer Series or even CRL since 2022 for Summer Series and 2021 for CRL. Them now back here, and Monterey, who've been like making a name for themselves in the Collegiate Rocket League scene. This is an important matchup for both these teams.
Yeah, this is a really exciting one. I mean, like you said, Colorado we haven't really seen too much of, at least in a very competitive state, which makes this so much more exciting. It's exactly what I was talking about before. When you have so much time away from the competitive scene and then you finally have a chance to come back, a lot of these teams are coming in full force, 110%. They've had plans being made on the back end for so long, and Borregos is one of those teams that is put a target onto their back, especially towards the end of their last season when we last saw them. They had done so well. They were slowly inching their way to the top and had fallen just a bit short. But like y'all said, they had an incredible qualifier here that probably shocked more people, including themselves. But that's not necessarily a bad thing.
True.
It's more important to come out making a big statement here in your first match of Summer Series.
Well, let's get the predictions going real quick. Just need a name on who's going to win and how many games. We'll start with Taco and go down the line.
I believe Monterey has played well, and they do have kind of like a 4-man roster technically because of Sorbent Karma. Apparently has some internet issues sometimes, maybe just not really be able to be available other times, so I'm not entirely sure how that's all going to work out. But regardless, I think Colorado has this one. I think Colorado plays incredibly well. I think, despite how
Swerve.
well Monterey has looked, I think Colorado has this just because I believe this is the time. Yokes has been around in the CU Boulder camp for a while, and
so
now
long.
Brazy and Thumper, they have a really solid team. The chemistry is there. I run into them in ranked. They're grinding together, so clearly they want to take this seriously, and I think they're going to start off on broadcast with a dub in 4.
Okay, Herc. I mean, I know we just heard from you, but what are your thoughts on that? Swerve from Taco.
I mean, I think Colorado's incredible. I think Yokes, Thumper, and Brazy are such good players, like Taco said, but Borregos is just better, and you can't not pick them. Well, at least I can't not pick them. I've stuck by their sides, so please don't let me down. In the words of Sabrina Carpenter, don't embarrass me. I can't do the rest of the song, but Borregos all the way.
Okay, Bass. I mean, what are your thoughts on this one? We're currently split on the desk.
Look, I will say this much. I do agree with Herc in talking about that there's been a very large lack in, sort of competition lately that's been able to judge these guys. The one competition that actually has been around, shout out to CCS, you guys have finally figured out a way to actually track your stats and post on social so that I can keep up with the games that are going on. It took a little while to get there, but now that we have, it was quite the exciting playoff bracket, and guess who came out on top? Colorado, looking pretty solid. They are a very good team. They have been around for a hot moment, and honestly, the biggest thing I will say about them is they took down some competition that failed to make it in the East, but got quite literally within games of doing
close.
so. If they're good enough to play like that, I think they're probably good enough to take down Monterey. Monterey, I'm sorry for underestimating you again. I know we've had some beef over it, but shut me up today. Prove that you can beat Colorado, and I'll never say it again.
Well, get your predictions in the chat with your channel points as well, looking at it currently and seeing how it is split. Colorado at 83%, Monterey at 17%.
Dang.
Not much faith in Monterey this time, but
That was on me.
a lot of
It
that
was
is because of Taco
50-50.
putting
That
40K
I put
points.
40K on Colorado.
40K?
Oh my goodness, 40K points. Okay, I gotta at least put like 10K on
I don't-
Borregos,
Yeah,
because
there's
that is
still
who
time,
I'm
there's still
going with
time.
this time.
I definitely did some crazy decision because I have 0 channel points here, and
It was probably a Texas team.
Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah.
got to be the Ball State run. Again, everybody forgets that Ball State
You
run was
know,
wild.
that is very true. Ball State did do really good last time. But with that, though, I am also going to go with Monterey this time. I doubted them before, and they have proven me wrong every single time. I
Yeah.
do know CU Boulder did have some recent success, but that has been not as present with CU Boulder as an organization, as a school in Collegiate Rocket League until just now. Borregos, they have that results. They have that in them. All of it's going to come down to the internet for Absorbent Karma, and hopefully it works for him this go around. But we, again, are getting into the matchup, so Bass and Herc, take us into it.
We will. Oh my
Alright.
gosh, what year is it?
Right? That's what I'm thinking here. I think you and I, our first summer series with either last year
This
or
had to have been like 2 years ago. I think it
Yeah,
was
2 years ago, I think, at this point. The
'Cause
only
I-
difference is
I
that
wasn't in summer
last
series last
time
year.
that we did this, I think we didn't even have a Mexican team within Collegiate Rocket League that was this prevalent. Now they're here. They've taken themselves a massive spot, and honestly, let's see if they can take themselves the win. This is actually not the regular roster we've been watching these guys run with, so I do actually want to point this out. Usually it's been Absorbent Karma, Tryhard Lido, and Decay. Today they're playing with Gamma, and again, this kind of goes back to what we've been talking about. It's been a bit of a mixed bag for the roster here for Borregos, but no matter what trio they've been putting in, they've been putting out results.
I mean, that doesn't always have to be a bad thing for those of you at home that are like, oh man, they're like constantly switching out players. If you're used to it, it's not a bad thing. If there's the trust to have that backup there, especially on a fly, that's the more important part, is constantly being prepared on a fly. A lot of the teams, when you have a sub, they're just kind of in the back end. They get called like maybe once a year, every 2 years. It's like, I could sub for a team and like the odds of me playing are that slim. So Monterey, they're prepared for anything to come their way, but like you said, it's been a while since we've had a Mexican team this, big and prevalent in the collegiate space.
And they're doing their country proud. They've been a very solid contender in pretty much every time we've seen them. I know last time in CRL, I ended up making a prediction that I'd see them finish top 3. I was a little bit overambitious with that, but I do think if this team hits their peak, they will be pretty hard to stop. Most teams in this league have struggled against them. The only reason that we kind of say was an upset for them to make it through qualifiers is, again, we don't really know what trio they're playing with. But regardless of the trio that they're playing with, we know what it is today, and we know how they're starting off. It's backs against the wall. Pressure on. Colorado. Drop down pass. Thumper will open the scoreline.
Oh, Oh, this one was floating so slow too. Who was third? I think it's Gamma. He goes up for it, and he realized as soon as there was no connection on it, Absorbent Karma was last up. It's low boost. It's just a quick last challenge from Colorado. They take advantage of it, and they're first on the board.
Doing a good job so far here at keeping up with their name. Like we said, it's a CU Boulder that I think a lot of us looked at and went, all right, this roster should finally be able to compete at the level at which we expect them to. Again, we've seen, I want to say it's Thumper and Yokes who have been on this roster for forever, but the addition of Brazy, yeah, that's making a pretty big difference so far. Enough of a difference to give them the lead here with just about 2 minutes gone, and Thumper trying to increase it. No pass out center. Instead, he'll opt to lock into a flip reset in the 50 and won't really do all too much with it. We'll stick around and keep some more problems up here, but honestly, the problem's only building for Borregos. They have yet to get any real offense in this game. They do have 3 registered shots, but it's only from Lido, and honestly, it's only through the first minute. Now, through the latter one, they've just been pressed against their backs, and more shots will finally fire through. Brazy the second.
I have seen this attempt come out from Colorado twice now where they want to do these very close infields. And unfortunately for Monterey, even getting a touch off the back of your car, if it is still on that line of sight for Colorado, they will take it as a pass and put that one through. That's exactly what they did. Monterey, they've tried that for themselves. They've been a little bit slow offensively, but here's their first attempt. It felt a little bit more solid than most, but those transitions coming in just a bit too quick to stop. And here comes Thumper.
All right, I see you, Boulder. You hear us coming into this one going, well, this is a pretty big test for you. Can you get over Monterey? And within the first half, you're starting to prove so. 3-0 here, an onslaught of offense. And again, Monterey, they're not being completely shut out here, but the 3 shots they had to start this game is all that they've got to answer with. Let's see if maybe they can shut it down here on the kickoff. No, that's definitely not going to be enough. Brazy pops this to the backboard. Lido's there in time, but once again, it's Monterey just getting pushed into defense and having to live there.
Yeah, getting pushed into that defensive spot not only is frustrating, but when you're getting pushed awkwardly, it's a lot harder to make those saves. Multiple times I've seen Colorado make that transition so fast that it's a little bit too awkward to try and transition back and make the saves, but for the time being, finally, Monterey gets a transition out of their own half. It's a long pinch clear off Thunder's car right into the net.
You know what? That will be enough. I'll take that one for now here. Lido has been the only offense for his team. Like we said, 4 shots total to Monterey, all 4 of them attributed to him. But honestly, a light on at the end of the tunnel is huge for Monterey here. They need something to work with. Don't let Thumper just stunt on you immediately. They're not going to, but they're not also going to clear the lines. Here comes Yokes, a 50-50, drop down. Brazy's there, but can't make contact. And Gamma should be able to get this one out of the half for at least a moment. Or not. Light touch into the corner, and somehow, some way, Boulder hold on to their offense.
I mean, it's really due, in fact, to the Boulder really wanting to lurk in those corners there. Anytime Monterey has let go of that ball, it has gone back in their favor, and finally, it's in a positive light. They grab onto this ball from that midfield line. It's Gamma trying to take this under 1, but that's an awkward touch there from Yokes. I'm sorry to call you out on that one, buddy. It's an awkward one. It's a great follow through from Monterey, though. And finally, the deficit has been cut down to 1. You've got 90 seconds left on the clock. Can you keep up?
Come on now, Monterey. Make this a little bit exciting here. You guys start off the game 0-3. You went down before even halftime. And all of a sudden, with only about a minute gone since then, they found 2 goals. Can they keep this up? Lido would like to think so. He's looking for passes out center, but instead, Yokes in the way. Gamma on 0 boost. This could be problematic if not for Thumper not being able to read that one out of the corner correctly. If he had made contact, that surely would have been even more CU Boulder offense, but instead, back on their back heel, having to make saves, and they might have to do it again. Karma puts this one up high. Brazy pass out and straight to Thumper, but oh my goodness, Borregos! Unrelenting. They turned on the speed boost and have not stopped.
They are finally giving Colorado a taste of their own medicine. And what is that? That is the quickest challenge possible. Anytime this ball has gone just free flying for a moment's notice, finally Monterey are taking that as a sign to take a challenge, and it's working out in their favor. It's tied game now. They got 45 seconds to try and extend and take this lead away, but it's going to be a little difficult. You're stuck in your own half. You see the crazy cheat up in the attempt to make the pass, but Brazy's got to read.
All right, come on now, Lito, calm down. I get it. You're turning into the offensive drive for your team. Let's not get too over-ambitious here. I'd rather see an overtime than you guys give up a silly goal. This would be pretty silly. Yokes not recognizing that Karma's on him. What could have been an easy possession for him. It will be a possession for him. Okay, instead, it's a poor touch out of midfield. Borrego's having to just absolutely slam back. And I'm tripping over my words, similar to the way the players are tripping over the ball right now. Neither team finding a solid touch, and Yoke says, fine, no one wants to hit it hard, I'll do it for you.
Run me that replay. Why did Okay. I'm sorry. I know technically the fault isn't on Gamma, but something in my brain would have said, just be prepared for the miss. And it felt like he just wasn't quite ready for it. 8 seconds left on the clock. If you can put this on the other side of the field, you might have a chance here. It's still up in the air. Gamma, pop this one up into the sky. Absorbent Karma. You saw Cholito lurking, but this is a touch onto the ground, and Colorado take game 1.
Game 1 going to Colorado, but I would say in its more unexpected fashion here. We look at this one initially and go, all right, Colorado up 3-0 at halftime. Yeah, obviously going to take this one. And then Monterey get 3 straight. And we got to look at this and all of a sudden think maybe we're either going in overtime or maybe we're going to have second questions about Colorado here. Not a poor performance from them by any stretch of the imagination, but we talked about it. They were dominating on shots through the first half. They end this game actually behind on shots, 6-8. So not an overwhelming amount, but when we talk about how it was Lito who had 4 shots before they even got a goal, and then they ended up getting another 4 and almost pushing it overtime. Colorado, be careful. That was way too easily slipped away from you guys. You should have had a much easier time holding on to that lead.
I absolutely agree. I think a sentence that needs to stay in the back of Colorado's minds right now is defense does win games. If you're able to go that far ahead that early on, right? Take a 3-0 lead, a minute or so in. Playing solid defense for the second half of that match is not necessarily a bad thing. And the fact that Monterey was able to adjust so quickly and really just take that away from Colorado, not the best of signs, but it was only game number 1, which means plenty of time for adjustments on both ends of the field. Question is, who's going to be the first to do it better?
We're going to have to find out now. Game 2 here. I'd like to see a Game 5 to start off our day. I don't know if it's necessarily in the cards quite yet. I'm going to more be looking to Monterey on this one. They're going to have a similar performance to that and maybe keep that up through, I'd say, the entire game rather than the latter half. We could definitely see a good challenge against Colorado, but Game 1 for Colorado, despite slipping away, was still a win. I don't think they're going to start off as hot this time, though. My goodness, Monterey coming out swinging, coming out with a first goal.
This is exactly what I was talking about. Now, towards the second half of that first game, if you missed it, at the end, Colorado sometimes would let a ball go loose just for a second or two. And what Monterey is starting to do is they're noticing that 1 or 2 seconds is a solid shooting opportunity. They saw it, Absorbent Karma took advantage of it, and put one onto the board.
Sometimes you just got to be a bit faster than your opponents, and I do know for certain this Borrego's team, they've absolutely got it. We've seen Monterey play so many times, and Absorbent Karma, I've seen him play almost his whole career. Touted is probably the best Mexican player in the history of CRL, and honestly, I don't disagree with that. He's one of the best players I've seen come out of Mexico, and he is incredible talent. So when we had a moment where we weren't sure if he'd be on the roster, well, you can see why we were hoping he was. Already making plays here, and he'll do it again. 2 goals, and it's not even been a minute.
Oh my goodness, this is so much more what I was hoping to see from Monterey. This is honestly pure team effort at this point. Everybody lurking exactly where they need to be, but great communication to get that one through. Now up 2-0, looking like an entirely different team than what we saw in game number 1.
All right, so I'm going to try to do the math right on this one. I think it's about 3 minutes now, back half of the last game plus the start of this game here. Score differential now at this point, 5 goals in comparison to 1. Colorado, they started off very strong, but since then, they don't really have much to, kind of show for it. Maybe they can get something back here. Thumper is trying to get some offense started for CU, but gonna have to go back to midfield. Yokes, pass out. Brazy, definitely not gonna jump for that one. It is way across net, but it will keep more possession for Colorado. Thumper completely beat by Karma, and once again, like we talked about, that speed coming to the advantage of Monterey.
Yeah, you keep mentioning that speed. That was my biggest critique for Monterey in game number 1, was that they felt so much slower than what they were actually capable of. And Colorado was using that to their advantage. But now Monterey has caught up and have honestly decided pace of play for the most part. And it's making Colorado uncomfortable defensively. And as far as just trying to stay in control, it's a little weird for them right now. Even when Yokes, right there, you saw it, tries to match the pace of play that's going on in front of him, he's just a bit behind.
Sometimes you got to take a, play out of your opponent's playbook here. And honestly, for Colorado, I would recommend that. You got to start diving at these balls. You got to get a bit more aggressive. Even there, I like that challenge. Yeah, they don't make contact, but what Thumper does is bump the player off the ball and give time now for his teammates to retreat. Defense, like you said, it wins championships. It might just win them this game if they can find a way to at least get 2 goals. I don't know about that one on this play, though. Yeah, Brazy, that was not the challenge necessary. And again, it is Borregos just absolutely dusting Colorado. And Colorado aren't doing themselves any favors. They've lacked to make contact on most of these plays. Maybe here the contact will be found, and Gamma will find the save.
3 in net to keep that one out, although that probably was overkill. It's not a bad shout. Half the game left to go. Still 2 unanswered goals for Colorado right now. I'm looking to make it 3 right here as this one waterfalls in front. Double demos is what it is taking to send Monterey back into their own half, and they still cannot transition out. It's another infield, although unfortunately Triharlito 0 boost and no contact leads them to just stay at 2 for now.
Yeah, the only issue, though, is that Colorado, you got to clear the ball. We keep seeing these super light touches that are going absolutely nowhere, and then when it comes time for one of them to drive through net, they're not prepared for it. To be fair, if you're not prepared for this shot, it's going in every time.
How does he have the space to even take that double? I thought Triharlito was like in a position where that could have become savable, but I think there was just so much going on. Again, outpaced to playing him in that moment, makes your head spin a little bit. Now 3-0 on the board. They want to turn it into 4, but Colorado, hopefully they can find some connection on this ball. They haven't had bad plans to get around the defense. It's just, unfortunately for them, Monterey's are a bit better.
All right, so we're going back to the statistic I talked about last time. It's at least a game extended now because we're past the halfway mark in this one. Goal differential now at this point, 7-1 in favor since those 3 goals that Colorado started off with. Those 3 goals, minus the one they had at the end of that last game, are the only things they have found throughout this series. It has been, I don't know if I want to say night and day, but it has been a stark contrast for sure. Colorado, get something back here. Gamma falls in for the fake, and that'll do it. Finally see you, Boulder, on the board.
This has got to do something for the confidence, because I've seen attempts at these plays so many times, but they were misconnects time and time again. Finally, the fake and play works out. Colorado puts themselves onto the board with 90 seconds to go, but you got 3 unanswered left. Here they go.
Crazy. You got some boost to work with. What else you got to work with here? How about Thumper on the rebound? Yokes is there, and we'll miss the shot. That's another missed shot. All right, Colorado, what do you have to work with? Apparently diddly squat. That's not great. Let's see if maybe you can make up for it here. No, Yokes beaten to the ball, and this one goes through the corner, and Colorado, I'm trying to give you your flowers. I'm trying to get you another goal, but you won't get it for yourselves.
Oh my goodness, the sheer amount of times I have thrown my hands up into the air is unfathomable. The fact that I knew I could just keep going with that sentence says something. The defense from Monterey is so intense right now. Not even this is going to find its way through. It's just a bit too high from Brazy. 41 seconds is all that is left. They've taken, 3-4 shots at this point, and nothing has found its way in.
This is, you guys missed CRL West. Congratulations, it's back. I don't really know what else to say besides that right now. We had shades of this throughout the qualifier. Vaught and I casted a qualifier match that I'll remember for the rest of the time. But even that match, I don't know if they hit the bar as much as what we are seeing right now. Colorado, the ball is in your court. You have had multiple chances to at least get a goal, if not tie this game, but you're doing it the hard way. Forget the open nets. Let's go for the double touches, I guess.
You don't have to clip to get through, Yokes. It's totally okay to take the simpler shots, my guy. But you know what? If it works, it works. But 12 seconds left might be a little bit too late. Off the kickoff, maybe they can do something special. Not quite. Thumper had to leave this one for Brazy to take it. Can he air dribble over 1? He does get past 1. No room to double to the right. Instead, it goes left. You can take 1 for the road home. but this one eventually is going to hit the ground, and there you have it. Monterey tie up the series.
I will say, if they had scored that goal there was a world where I was looking at this like, no way we're going to an overtime off this, right? We're not getting a kickoff goal in the backup kickoff goal. No, we did not. But what we also got was one of the weirdest score lines you have ever seen. Y'all can see this one at home. 13 shots to Colorado, 2 total goals, and of the 2 goals, 0 assists. Not a single one of them was assisted the entire time. Meanwhile, we look at the other end here, 4 goals for Monterey. They only took 7 shots. They shot over 50% in that game. So, although Colorado probably had the majority of offense, especially at the end of that game, their shots didn't really do too much. Again, we talked about it. So many shots off the bar. If they want to try to get back into this series, they have to be more accurate.
Yeah, I think right now the biggest thing that is absolutely hindering Colorado is their accuracy. The second they can swap that a little bit and the shots go just 2 inches down under the bar, this becomes a problem for Monterey. Right now, Monterey, defensively, yes, they look good. However, if Colorado's shots had been on target, that would have been a much bigger challenge for Monterey to try and survive.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, at this point, it's going to be a difficult series for really either one of these teams, at least in my opinion, as it stands right now. We've seen it. When Colorado are playing well, they're going to test Monterey. When Monterey are playing well to the standard at which we've seen them set outside of the first 2 minutes of Game 1, they are going to be difficult to play. These are 2 teams that I think a lot of us look at as kind of fringe top teams within the West. Monterey, we've always known that you've had these heights. Boulder, we're just now finding out about them. Can you try and silence us on the unfortunate downhill decline we've seen throughout the last game or so? Maybe an early goal would start them off strong. Brazy trying to fake it out, but it'll at least get some offense.
And here's another attempt. Yokes' shot.
Whoa!
Just slow, but Toledo with the goal line. He carried that one in the net and right back out, and transition immediately goes down. This one, unfortunately, doesn't find its way in, although that would have been the most insane clip ever. But fight doesn't stop here. There's the shot from Brazy. This one finally finds its way in.
I don't know how this is how we start off this game, but honestly, for Colorado, I think you're going to be pretty happy about it. You really needed this one. First lead in a hot moment for this team, and they'll do so just underneath 30 seconds gone. I like what we're seeing. All right, Boulder, if you guys can at least make transition plays like that work out, that defense wins championships mentality might be able to work out for you. Yokes faking out low, can't get a second goal for his team, but Colorado in control of the offense? Okay, I'm going to eat my words. I don't know about that one.
Oh, yeah, that was a little bit questionable, but I do got to give props to Colorado. They're coming into this one so much better as far as matching what Monterey is putting out onto the table right now, forcing Monterey to work on that defense. And this is exactly what I talked about, right? As soon as Colorado starts becoming just a tiny bit more accurate with the 1,000,003 shots that they have been putting on target, Monterey has a much bigger game in store. Unfortunately, this was just out, and it's not high enough for the double.
That, oh no, and they're going to get the counterattack. See, this is how you do it. When you remove the last defenders, you just need to shoot on target. Gamma, unfortunately, learned that the hard way. 2 players gone, and it's the counterattack that bites them.
This is just pure aggression at this point. It's Colorado saying, hey, we acknowledge what happened in game number 2. However, we aren't going to allow it to happen again. You guys are going to have to create a new plan to stop us defensively. And that's a scary thing to have to pay attention for, is your third man getting demoed out consistently. So you're going to have to take as many shots as you can right now. This one's saved. Follow-up doesn't go on through. And here comes another transition from Colorado, taking that corner boost there. And this bump. Finally, maybe Monterey can take a shot.
Oh.
Immediately gets told no.
Yeah, I gotta say, Colorado, I don't know what you guys did differently at midfield here, but you are just not allowing these easy escapes. I do think it's plays like this, though, where they're not challenging too aggressively. Again, we asked for them to step up the speed. That doesn't mean on every play. The best teams are gonna have some modular speeds. Occasionally, they're gonna just absolutely dash at you. And other plays, they're gonna let you hit the ball because they know they can control it. And I think that's what we're seeing out of Colorado right now. They recognize the opportunities where they can dive in. They recognize the opportunities where they need to restart the play. They know that one's a dive type of play. And although it is blocked on the line, you can see Colorado's offense has been revitalized at this point, and it's been a pretty good start for them, if I do say so myself.
And it's still going. Absorbent Karma trying to keep this one at 2. This could be 3, though, and it does. It goes right on in. It's Yokes, the man, the myth, the legend, whatever you want to eventually start to have to call him. He's clipping He wants to make a mini montage out of this series if possible, and it's working.
Well, Yokes, I'm starting to recognize the pattern here, brother. I see what you're doing. Game 1, you get 1 goal. Game 2, you get 2 goals. Game 3, you've already gotten yourself a hat trick. Wait, no, technically, Brazy got one of those goals. All right, fine. You'll get the assist on that one. You're at least helping out here. He's getting more and more involved with the offense in every single one of these games, and he might just do it again. A long ball downfield. It feels like Colorado are starting to figure out how to get through this defense, through this midfield of Borregos. All you got to do is put a long ball down mid. Nobody's going to be prepared for it, and if it's heavy enough, you can follow it up. Much better play out of Colorado here. The transition has been their absolute friend throughout this, and the defense as well. Great save out of Thumper.
A little bit slower play on this one here from Colorado, which is not a bad thing. I think they're attempting to be a little bit more methodical with what's coming their way. They don't want those big, long clears headed towards their net from Monterey, but you already see it. Absorbing Karma, even on low boost, already lurking for those demos, for those bumps, and that's what they need to do. They're down by 3, which is an insane sentence to be saying after what we saw in game number 2. Hopefully this one finds its way in. Not even on that. Yokes, defensively, also a masterclass.
He's just been playing out of his mind right now. Let's see if they can keep this up, though, because this is a pretty awkward defense.
Yes.
But Lito dives in as the third man all the way into the corner. It might pay off. Okay, I see you, all of Monterey. Just absolutely hounding the net. It took like 12 shots, but it will get them a goal.
I was gonna say this had to be at least a solid 5 attempts to try and get through. Eventually, Tryhard Lito, last one on touch, puts this one on in. You're now only down by 2. There is enough time, but you gotta have a solid kickoff off this one. And here comes follow-up from Brazy. Big clear, second touch from the corner to redirect into a possible center, but taken away. Absorbing Karma, although it is only momentarily out of their hands.
Hey, he's a moment terror. He's been problematic for these teams to try and shut down throughout this one. Although, in this game, a little bit different here. Because, again, like we said, 3-1 with a minute to go. Although Gamma is trying to get some offense started here, it's not working out. Instead, it's actually Brazy. My goodness, what a dive. And where's the follow? Shot on and in. And Yokes, now he will get his hat trick. Now he will increase his scoring.
Listen, if you want to make a hat trick, do it in a double. We saw it once. Now we have officially, well, it's a setup for technical twice, but it counts in my book, all right?
I'm gonna count it.
Yeah, we'll let it slide here, but 4-1 Colorado. There you have it. This one could potentially be 5 if Thunder could get under. Not quite. Another attempt, just going wayside time and time again, but really all they're doing is making Monterey force on defense. 34 seconds left. You don't get to take any shots of your own. It's just time wasted.
Oh,
and
boy.
30 seconds left and one more on the board. This could be the end.
I mean, look, Monterey, you've done a great job at following up shots, but we have to also give credit to Colorado. They have been doing this on repeat. The initial shot comes in. You can guarantee if it floats in front of the net for even a half a moment, there will be a player to score it. And most likely, that player is going to be Yokes. He's now got 7 goals throughout this series. He is undeniably the most offensive player here for CU Boulder, and it's come at the right time. Last game was not in their favor. This one, Yokes is just trying to set up everything, and it's working out. Thumper, he'll give you one, because he could have doubled that. He decided not to.
I was going to say, I feel like I saw that fake a million miles away, but unfortunately, the same cannot be said for Monterey. Colorado getting more and more creative with their shots. One away from a Brazil on Team Mexico. That's really not what you want right now. Here's Absorbent Karma trying to break things up a little bit. Reset doesn't do anything. Anything is possible. 3 seconds left. A pop-up into the air. Could have been it. You killed the dream.
I mean, I just wanted to see at least Karma get a goal for the road there to stunt. They might need it. I hate to say it, but Monterey might need anything at this point. Just some sort of fire underneath them to get the ignition going again, because the big issues we talked about last time with Colorado putting out an unbelievable amount of shots but missing them, not the same here. They kept the same amount of shots, 15 total. The only difference is 6 of them went in.
I don't know what to say. My eyes right now are glued to Yokes. I mean, over 1,000 in his scoring alone is insanity. But really, all that does is put a huge target on to Yokes. They know exactly who they need to stop. They know exactly who they need to slow down. Despite the assists coming through, Yokes really was that big initiator, driving Colorado through the defense into the offensive front and having any sort of an opportunity to take shots, right? And the same can't quite be said for Monterey. I mean, we saw Absorbent Karma taking what? I think he got, okay, take that one back. Tryhard was a little bit more the initiator. It was 5 shots alone in that particular game, but the fact that it didn't really feel that way says a lot. You can't quite pinpoint who's going to be that initiator for Monterey, so hopefully somebody steps up. Absorbent Karma, I know Bass and I are both looking at you on this one, but for now, can Monterey stop Yokes?
I don't know. I look, Yokes has been playing incredibly, but the big thing that I think Monterey has stopped doing since they're winning game 2 has been the physicality. If there's one player to start getting physical with, it's gotta be Yokes. You need to bump into him, you need to demo him, or you just need to get the early goal. Brazy, great save on the line, and actually it's physicality from Yokes that stops the follow-up from Tryhard Lido. I do want to mention, by the way, I actually agree with you. I think Karma was by far the person setting up most of the plays that we saw out of Borregos. The reason I don't think he gets credit with the shots is because most of the time he was putting off the backboard for somebody, and although we did see the shots arrive from Lido and from Gamma, it was just the on-line defense. We both mentioned it. Thumper and Yokes in particular have been shutting plays down on the line, and honestly, I don't know if Monterey are going to find a way to stop that, but they need to.
I mean, before in at least game number 2, they had a pretty good idea as far as being able to transition out of their own half. And the same can't quite be said for what that game 2, or excuse me, the game 3 was. This time, they at least were able to break out, but it's that follow-up after the initial clear that's been missing so much. You see it right here. It's that attempt at mid. The follow-up is so slow that it's Colorado taking advantage to push this one back. Absorbent Karma tries to clear it. Where's the follow? Nowhere to be found.
Yeah, again, it's that midfield presence out of Colorado. We both talked upon it a ton throughout this series. They've gotten so much stronger out at midfield, and demos like that are going to help them out. Thumper, 1 to beat, get around Lido, flick up, and, I mean, I was going to say it failed, but also nobody from Monterey quick to clear their lines. That means more offense here for Colorado. That means shots out of Brazy. Although they don't get past the defense, Thumper out of midfield will contain it and try again. Pass out, Yokes is there and he misses! An uncharacteristic miss out of Yokes, I will say.
Very reminiscent of game 1 Colorado. Unfortunately, that is not who you want to see here in game number 4. And this one up in the air. Tryhard Lido going to try and take this one out to the side, but you have made mention of this quite a number of times. These are very, very tiny clears coming out of Monterey, and that is really, they're almost their own biggest enemy right now as far as being able to get out of their own half, just because those clears are so tiny, and it's so consistently tiny, and it's frustrating me for y'all. I want to see one big clear and a follow-up, and you guys could actually have a chance, but unfortunately, that's what's happening to you from Colorado.
I mean, the big issue is that, again, it goes back to that midfield conversation. They want to boom it out to midfield. They can't. If they boom it in midfield, someone's there to take a shot. If you just barely touched in front of the net, someone's there to take a shot. Monterey, good luck, because Yokes is on fire.
Yeah, it feels like there is no stopping him right now. Unfortunately, if Yokes has an inch, he takes a mile kind of play mindset right now. 2:38 on the clock, 1 goal lead, potentially 2 as Brazy leaves this one for Yokes to try and take Absorbent Karma. Finally, just a bit quicker, and there it was, the transition. For as long as it lived, it died. But Absorbent Karma finally able to beat out the defense. They catch them on a quick turnaround and tie things up.
All right, that'll do it. The first time we don't see a defender on the line, and it will pay off for Monterey. We talked about it. Other times, there's been somebody back, whether it's Yokes, Thumper, or Brazy. They've all been able to make their saves. One time they quite literally can't is the one time we see Monterey finally get on the board. And they keep this up, though. It's been a very pendulum-swinging type of series here, where one team's got momentum, they hold on to it. Oh boy, I think Colorado might get their momentum back. That is a way overcommitment out of Monterey. How do they escape this now that they're put into the blender?
Oh, it was a little bit slow on it, but finally, retransition out. Huge flick there. Brazy with a save on that one, but the fact that they're able to stay in and try and take one more shot is a good sign of life. Another big clear, this one from the ceiling back and down. This one falls into the hands of the one person you probably wouldn't want to have it, and that is Yokes. Big flick on target. Follow-up from Thumper is a little bit slow, but Brazy off the backboard, right on in. It is a full team effort for goal number 2.
I have my arms completely out extended and my hands on my face as I'm just like, how? There's 2 players back. You have Karma and Lido charging into that one. They both technically have the angle swinging out of the corner, and they just kind of hesitate. They just don't know how to read it off the backboard, and rather than making a poor touch, they make no touch at all. I hate to say it, but Monterey, you've put yourself in this situation. You dug the hole. It's time to find a way out of it. You cannot keep giving up these silly goals. Maybe they can get something started here. With 90 seconds to go, there is technically plenty of time, but the silly mistakes are going to get punished at this level.
Yeah, right now, I think the biggest hindrance to Monterey is how slow these follow-ups are coming in. You can even time it. It's these like 2 to 3 second almost delays. And they got to be a little bit faster than that. That was a great attempt at an infield there. But again, bad connection on it, a little bit slow out. Although, I do got to give props. This is the longest they've stayed out there offensively. And it's still going. 1 left on the clock. This one up in the sky. Absorbent Karma. Slow shot towards net, but the hope is still there.
I mean, they've got a chance. I think the big issue I'm having is that, I mean, we talked about, becoming efficient in their shooting. They've only got 3 shots throughout this game. Yokes alone has more shots than that, which is absurd to say, and I think he might get another. Challenge in the corner. It's not really going to do all too much, but it's not going to give Monterey another good clear. Maybe this will be enough. Out to midfield. Thumper trying to keep this one away from Gamma, but is unsuccessful in doing so. Karma to back him up, but again, it's these lighter touches. They just can't seem to figure out what to do with the ball, and I think it's very intentional. The boost starvation has been there from Colorado. They are just pressuring them and forcing them into mistakes. 15 to go. Let's see what you've got. You have one last chance here, Monterey.
13 on the clock. 1 goal away to try and stay in this one. Unfortunately, that one doesn't go through. It's one last play effort. Low boost there for Monterey. Can they pop this one up? Absorbent Carmen, last-ditch efforts. This one still in play. It's a race back to hit the ground, and it does. Colorado take down Monterey 3-1.
3-1 in the game, 3-1 in the series. Either way you slice it, it is a win for Colorado here, and it's a good one at that. After a game 2 where we really had, I'd say, a decent amount of questions for this team as a whole, they shut us up pretty quickly, and really in particular, Yokes shut us up. What a performance out of Yokes. Not only is he able to score in every game of the series, the highest he scored was 1,000 points and 4 goals, 2 assists. Dude was on fire, and even in this game where he maybe didn't take the spotlight as much, he was still a major presence.
He looked incredible. This Colorado squad looks so good. I understand where the high praise comes from. I do still got to give a shout out to Monterey. Their glimpses of success, when they were on it, they were on it, and it looked like there was no way to catch up to them. Unfortunately for Monterey, Colorado did a much better job of meeting them at where they were.
I mean, at the end of the day, we knew that this Colorado team was capable. We knew that Monterey was capable. It was about what team was able to stay more consistent. And despite a blip on the radar in Game 2, and I would really say the back half of Game 1 into Game 2 for Colorado, the rest of the series was definitely dominant in their favor here. Again, very good victory at the end of that one. Not only was it a good victory, but the one prior was even more impressive, almost getting a Brazil against Monterey here. But we are not the only talking heads who just watched that match. So let's bring back in VOD. Let's bring back in Taco. Let's talk a little bit about what we just witnessed.
Yeah, I mean, Taco, you basically said it going into the series that it'd be Colorado and Yokes is the one to look out for. And now Yokes, 8 goals, MVP performance, and now you are having all the channel points in the world. How does it feel?
Yeah, all of them. Just every single one of them. For all the people who are Bragos fans, I mean, I'm sorry you have to part with your points. Hopefully you can get them back for the rest of the night, but I also predicted it would be in 4. I will say, I knew the destination. I did not anticipate the path we would take to get there. There was a 6-goal game in there. There was a barn burner in Game 1. There was just constant things. And part of it was to just say, oh, it's like West gameplay. I think it was just 2 teams that were having bouts of momentum going back and forth, just swinging haymakers. There was like absolutely no subtlety at times in those games, which is making it really fun to watch, but hopefully that's like a lesson learned maybe as they continue the rest of the round robin league play.
Speaking of lessons learned here for Borregos, Herc, I mean, what do we really need to see them implement going into the remainder of the season for them?
I've got a list of things I want to talk to them about. I've got a whole game plan for us going into the rest of this summer, but honestly, I feel like the most obvious is the lack of consistency. It was just unfortunate to see them fall off so many times after finding like a little wave of momentum like we all made mention to so many times, but not quite able to get into that flow state of just keeping connection. As soon as Colorado was able to do anything to disrupt that flow state for them, they could not find their rhythm again until the hard reset of a game ending and then heading into the next one. So that is the first and foremost. I will be sending my DM out to you guys later. Coach Herrick is on it. It's cool, guys. I'm back.
It's going to be easy improvements from here on out with Herc on board. But, Bass, we got to talk a little bit about Colorado and their potential for the rest of Summer Series. After seeing them have some glimpses of greatness and brilliance throughout this matchup and looking at their weaknesses that were kind of identified a couple of times by Borregos, I mean, where do we feel like potentially they could end up at the end of the season?
If they keep that up, I could see them going somewhere in top 8, but I think that's going to probably be a stretch for them to even be competing for playoffs at that point. The big concern I have is that they need to stay consistent. If we see any games that look at all like Game 2 or the end of Game 1, there's not a chance they're going to be taking any of those spots here. But again, I mean, Borregos is a good team. I don't want to discredit a win over a team like them. I just think that's not really enough for me to say if we're going to see Colorado be a meaningful player within the West here. We tried to say they were, by the way, in Qualifier 1, and then they failed to qualify. So that's kind of where my doubt comes from here. Like, you guys might be national champions in a different league, but you weren't able to make it into Summer Series on your first try, and that's concerning.
Yeah, I mean, both of these teams weren't able to make it into Summer Series on their first try, so we'll see exactly how they perform as the season goes along. It's only 4 weeks for league play, so they only have so much time to complete their matches and try to get into that top 6. Top 2, ideally, if they want to have the best shot and be guaranteed top 6 for those playoffs as well. But we still have 2 more matches to go. The next one is Shawnee State with Slayer coming back into the fold for Summer Series. All the S's you can ask for. And Durham. Canada is alive with a single team. We'll see how they face off against after this break.
Your dream is the first step on your educational path. Let Nelnet Bank help you go from dreamer to achiever with a private student loan. Simple application process, flexible repayment plans, and easy co-signing options. Apply at nelnetbank.com/elevate.
Going out of my mind, and I wish I could lie, tell you that it gets better. Now that you're gone, they say time should heal, but it's been too long. Couple months where I can't seem to move on. I can't seem to move on. I can't seem to. I can't seem to. I can't seem to. Now that you're gone, they say time should heal, but it's been too long. Couple months that I can't seem to move. I can't seem to move on. I can't seem to.
Baby, I just wanna be alone. I don't need your company, stop blowing up my phone. You don't get the things that I've been through, and I don't have the time to lay it all in front of you. And you think that you wanna save me. You don't know it, baby, why you do this? I got this under control. You think you do, but you really don't know that I don't need a savior. You can't be my savior. I'll save myself. I'll save myself. No, I don't need a savior. You can't be my savior. I'll save myself. I'll save myself. But you really don't know that I don't need a savior. You can't be my savior. I'll save myself. I'll save myself. No, I don't need a savior. You can't be my savior. I'll save myself. I'll save myself. No, I don't need a savior. You can't be my savior. I'll save myself. I'll save myself.
We on the top and we ain't gonna fall. It's an obsession, a habit you call. We hitting automatic, never stall. Only got one tactic, do it all. I'm from the bottom, I hate what I saw. I couldn't walk, so I learned how to crawl. They wanna talk when you're back to the wall. So I say let 'em, I ain't moving small. Money grows from my intuition. I just bought a crib, that's my first edition. People hate it when you claim a vision, but I use a static when I hit ignition. Hungry moves, I'm faster in a minute. I stay fresh to death, I'm in a mint condition. Forge a heat, no matter where I've been, and give me any place, and it'll be a kitchen. This how we flow to the top. I'm on a wave and it never gonna stop. I hit a 3, now we running the clock. 24 seconds, I still block a shot. I'm making this an eternal spot. Permanent stain in the flow, ink blot. Don't step to me when I get too hot. I'ma end your life and it's all you got. We on the top and we ain't gonna fall. It's an obsession, a habit you call. We hitting automatic, never stall. Only got one tactic, do it all. I'm from the bottom, I hate what I saw. I couldn't walk, so I learned how to crawl. They wanna talk when you're back to the wall. So I say let 'em, I ain't moving small. Homemade flow, I'm a PVC. There ain't one player out doing just like me. Heart rate froze, check the EKG. I hate wasting time, no eventually. Routine work when nobody see it, but I ain't feel the stress, I know it's meant to be. 30 beats, I'm on a killing spree. I made every song in my discography. Yeah, that's every cent, every dollar. I ain't tryna listen to a broke scholar. Making moves to make the money taller. To the cash topping on the Eiffel Tower. Labels calling, I won't wear the collar. With my own drive, I can take it farther. Do it myself, don't ever bother. Been self-made now, shout out to my father. We on the top and we ain't gonna fall. It's an obsession, a habit you call. We hitting automatic, never stall. Only got one tactic, do it all. I'm from the bottom, I hate what I saw. I couldn't walk, so I learned how to crawl. They wanna talk when you're back to the wall. So I say let 'em, I ain't moving small.
Welcome back to Summer Series. We've rearranged a little bit here. I am no longer casting. I'm actually taking over the host role for my friend over here, Vaudable, joined by Danger Taco and Hercules as we get into our second matchup of the night. Taco, we just witnessed the birth of a new era within the West here. It's a Colorado Boulder we haven't seen in a hot moment, but they took down a win versus Borregos to start us off, and I can't say that's a bad win at all.
No, it's the opening. It's really something that has been foretold through many ages of CRO West, or at least in my mind it has been, because he's always had a pretty good run through quals, but now he actually has a squad behind it. I think classic like first qual kind of jitters where you get in and then you're not really playing the game that you want to. I also talked to several teams who qualified for CRL and Summer Series, and they're like, yeah, I mean, I've played in tournaments before. I played in high rank lobbies before. But then I asked them after like being on stream, like, hey, how'd you feel? And they're like, my hands were shaking. It's weird, like because knowing that many people were watching and knowing casters were talking about what I was doing, it does affect you. It does get to you a little bit. So I'd be curious to see what teams can kind of shake that off and just get into flow state.
I mean, Herc, I wanted to throw to you and just be like, let's talk a little bit more about yokes, but then he said the yokening, and I don't ever want to do that again.
We made the same face, actually.
Now I'm selling t-shirts. Don't worry. I'm getting Colorado people on board.
Look,
It's called
look,
passive
all right.
income, you guys.
I don't know if that's passive. I don't think you
Tough
know the word
times, tough
passive
times.
means. Either way here, I'm going to state, still, give some praise more to Yokes here. Let's talk a little bit about that, because you and I were basically flabbergasted by what we were witnessing from him.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't actually have a person in mind who I thought was going to be that initial, like, star player. I'm sure other people did, but I wanted to go into it with even playing ground until we all saw what Yokes did, and it wasn't all solo. The fact that a lot of it was setups to his teammates, those fakes off the backboards had so much potential a lot of the time. A couple of them finally had found their way through once they started getting into the groove of things, but Yokes all the way around is such a great player. I'm very, very excited to see him continuing to play on, but that was a great opening series for Summer Series.
Well, it's the opening series. We've actually got more matches we're going out throughout here today. So let's take a look at the schedule as we get into our second matchup of the night, which is going to be Shawnee State versus Durham. We're going to close out the night with Illinois State versus Syracuse, unless we can get a fourth match to be determined. We're hoping to get something in there. But let's focus up on our second match here in Shawnee State versus Durham. And Bud, I'm going to give you the floor on this one.
Ooh.
Because it's the Canadian representation here. You and Seb got to cast these guys getting into Summer Series. Now, how do you think they're going to do once they're into it?
I think they're going to do decent. I don't exactly expect them to get into a top 6, but I think they're going to try and push the envelope. And the biggest thing for both these teams is going to come down to consistency. Shawnee State and Durham both struggled in the first qualifier and had to qualify for Qual 2. Durham, I mean, they have the potential. We've seen them take on tough teams, but again, we haven't seen them in an entire year. Looking at these rosters as well, and shout out to our production crew as well, Duckworth Slayer and Taco Stash with Coach Seabass. Woo! Mind you, I didn't realize Seabass was the coach for this team. And then Jordan Wildfire and Zoshian as well on Durham this time. So, I mean, some big names that you can recognize in the scene for quite some time. Jordan, as we talked about, used to be on Torrent, used to be on Shotfire Rebellion. Wildfire's been in the scene for a while. And Zoshian, I would say, carried Durham to qualify over USM with what we saw in Qual 2. So, definitely can't be understated, but you got to look at the teams that both these lost to. So Shadow R is actually the coach, not Seabass. That is a mistake there. But SSU lost to Stockton in Qual 1 and ISU. And Durham lost to Ball State and BPC. And looking at those quality of teams that both these rosters lost to, Durham better than SSU. That's all I got to say.
I'm not going to disagree on that one. Not in really any regards here, but I mean, we even talked to Shawnee State about their first qualifier, and they admitted they were not on point for the day, and they were not very happy with how they performed. Slayer, I think, sent DMs to multiple of us basically being like, we don't deserve it. That was not our one to win. We know we did not play well enough. We did not deserve a spot in Summer Series based on that performance. Second qualifier, yeah, they deserved that spot. They played very solid in that second qualifier, really did step up in a meaningful way. I'm curious to see if they can continue to step up at this point, though, because these two teams have found themselves, I'd say, middle of the pack, if you will. Taco, we talked about this a lot.
Truly.
East has stepped up in a very meaningful way. Although these two rosters maybe a year or two ago would have been like surefire top 6s, now it's going to be a bit more difficult of a road for them.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams that recruit crazy teams. Like, wow, you're picking up like a B+ or A player. That'll put them in like the lower 3/4 of East now. It's like actually insane how ridiculously over the top things can get in the East nowadays. So yeah, I do think it's really a combination of, yes, recruit great players, get them into your roster with your other really highly ranked players, but how you actually make them all work together is ultimately the key. We've seen plenty of teams play above kind of their general weight class because of how well they work together. And I think Summer Series is kind of cool because you get to see these teams, typically completely brand new rosters, work together in real time, and you see their chemistry build over the course of week after week.
Well, the chemistry has been there for, I guess, not IRSC anymore, now Shawnee State for a very long time. Herc, the last time we saw IRSC in an official capacity was when they were quite literally a single game away from making it to the CRL World Championship. It's been a long road for them. It's got to feel good to be back, though, right? And especially with a new third in Duckworth. I mean, expectations have got to be pretty high for this team.
I'm sure that they have high expectations for themselves. I mean, you guys have talked about it before. Slayer is a very active player and communicative as far as it concerns whatever team or roster that he has standing behind him. So I know as far as they are concerned, yes, the expectations for themselves are extremely high. And yes, the last time we saw them, they had so much potential. So that's where I get a little bit nervous for them, because when you're trying to almost match what you had done before with a different player, pressure and expectation getting built up onto Duckworth could be a bit too much at times. And I try not to be that person to be like, oh, it's going to be too much pressure. They're not going to be able to, withstand that mentally, blah, 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 blah. Please prove me wrong. Like, I want you to prove me wrong. I want you to be successful. I only talk about it from a realistic standpoint that Slayer and Taco Stash definitely, like you said, they have very high expectations for this roster, and they're going to want to come out with a win.
One thing I do have to correct you on real quick, Bass. Actually, the last time all three of you actually saw the team of Slayer and Taco Stash was at CCC.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to say this, and I was like, okay, maybe I'm making this up, but I swear
No, you're good.
I, hugged Slayer and had a whole conversation with him.
I'm thinking too much, CRL CCA brain.
You are.
CCC was actually a pretty big competition for them. Talking about, high expectations. IRSC came into that match, and the first thing they did was beat Boise, the eventual runners-up for the entire competition. So, yeah, IRSC went out with a bang, and now they're here with a brand-new roster, or I guess brand-new university, however you want to phrase it. However, what we have realized is that they brought Seabass with them. Vaughn, you and I gotta have the same reaction of
I don't think Seabass is actually with them. They said Shadow R is the coach. I think that's just a
Shadow R
mistake.
is the coach for Durham.
Thank you,
Yes,
Taco.
yeah.
That's what I was
for
going to
Durham.
say. So,
Excuse
yes,
me.
So
Okay,
Shadow's
so it
the
is
coach for
Seabass.
Durham.
They
Yeah.
brought Seabass. What?
That's
What's
cool.
Talk
going
about
on
it.
here?
I want to say,
Yeah.
I was surprised to see it. I'm wondering what impact he's going to have here.
Okay. So for Durham, it's Shadow R. Okay. I think Seabass, with his experience and what he knows about Collegiate Rocket League and Rocket League in general, is going to be a huge pickup. I mean, I got to shout out, I think it is Travis is his name, for the side of Shawnee. I mean, he's been trying to build a big program for that squad as much as possible for such a long time. I remember casting this team back years ago, not this specific roster, but Shawnee, and now to see them, they're actually in Summer Series. They've been on the envelope with a different roster here and there a couple times, but they're here. They have some representation. Now they're trying to see how far they can move on. That's going to be a big thing here as well. So we'll see how it goes for this squad against Durham. Both these teams, they have potential to peak in Summer Series. We've seen it, at least from Durham, before. I mean, we talk about, history, but again, a lot of it's short-lived because of that consistency, and that's going to be the biggest question mark for both these rosters.
I know we've beaten this topic into a ground already at this point, considering the fact that we've mentioned, again, Durham being able to take pretty big wins in the last summer that have kind of put them on the radar for most people. But I'm wondering what we're kind of looking at as the bigger peak here at this point. Are we looking at an IRSC getting quite literally a series away from going to World Championship, or is it Durham being able to take down the reigning champions of CRL National? So it's a hard in between. It's a hard in between. We don't have to make that decision today. What I do need is decisions about who's winning this matchup here. It's talent prediction times, and Vaughn, I mean, we just heard from you, but who are you taking?
Oh, this is tough because I love both these teams, these schools,
You're
these
Canadian.
rosters.
You can't do this.
But
You
again,
can't.
Do it.
Seb would kill me if I didn't go for Durham, so
Okay.
I have to go for Durham on this one. But I think it's gonna be close. I'm going to say it's gonna be a Game 5.
I hope we get a Game 5 out of this one. It would be nice to see. Chat, if you have ideas about who's going to take this one, predictions up in chat as well, so you guys can decide if you're thinking Shawnee State or Durham. Taco, you made away like a bandit last time with your predictions. You feeling confident in your prediction this time as well?
I actually need to get in right now. I'll do this live. See, I'm going to Alt-Tab, go
Okay.
into the prediction, and then go into and predict the rest of my winnings. Put a solid 50K onto the side of Shawnee, because I do believe in Shawnee's
Ooh.
ability. Durham has repeatedly been the team that I feel like when I watch, I'm like, man, they have such a high ceiling. Would be cool if they touched it,
man.
because I haven't seen them actually touch it over and over. So I don't believe they're going to do this. I believe in them to be an elite team, but I do kind of have to agree with some of the haters that I've seen around the community that it is strange to see this team continuously earn our respect, and then they play against a team that they should beat, and they don't. So as the pride of Canada, they got to step up. I think for right now, Shawnee has it. I do agree in a Game 5 fashion, though.
All right, Herc. Splitting the
Game
desk so
5.
far. Where were you taking us before I throw my prediction in?
No, low-key, you know what? Game 5 is kind of valid. I'll give you that one.
Okay.
I can't actually see this going 3-1 or anything, but I'm with y'all on the whole consistency thing. However, I can't go against Shawnee. I think there's a reason Duckworth got chosen to come into this roster. Anybody who is becoming that new third obviously has, the belief in them that they can meet expectations, and I think that they will prevail.
Man, I would have
Valid.
liked
Valid.
to have, split the desk evenly here, but I already threw 11,000 channel points onto Shawnee in the chat, so
It's okay,
I'll
I
stick
put two
with that one
on it as
here.
well.
I'll put a whole
Look, man.
5K down.
I could play both sides, but instead we're going to have the desk go 3-1 in favor of Shawnee, and VOD was almost going to make it 4-0 if not for the Canadian bias here at Durham. Will it be enough to save Durham? I think it's time to find out. It's going to be Vaudable and Taco on this one. Herc and I are going to sit on the sidelines, but I think we've got our second game of the night ready here. Gentlemen, get into it.
That we do. Shawnee State facing off against Durham. Only one of them can rise to the challenge and become the ultimate victor in this best of 5. Both these two schools had to go all the way the distance into their final matches, potentially, for that second qualifier, even make it into Summer Series. So it's only up from here for both these rosters, Taco.
And it's also nice to be able to see both teams have to go through a decent amount of adversity to be able to get here as well. These are both Qual 2 teams, and sometimes that happens when you have squads come in, you get really confident, and I think they know how difficult it is nowadays to get into CRL events. Even Summer Series, which has traditionally been kind of a bit more accessible for some of these top teams, being able to actually now cast those kind of anxieties aside and get into things with Game 1 of Series 1 on broadcast. I think we're up for a show if it's anything like our first series of the day.
A lot of great talent on the field on both sides. And there we go. Some great talent from Wildfire. Led the charge, rocking the Canada decal. Love to see it, but I talked about Zoshion with the way that they orchestrate things in those qualifiers. That's exactly what we see here for that perfect passing play.
And being able to then get the counter as well, just be able to set up that 1v1. Never a fun position of your Duckworth, so necessarily something that is going to have to be paid attention to as the day continues on. As Wildfire will also quickly get on this one. Everybody on Shawnee kind of standing around just watching it. I don't really mind playing the passivity. Problem is you have to transition that into something else. Slayer really laid up for this one. Luckily, Zoshion did not have that read. Takuzash going to have to get in the way of the next one.
Potential there for Slayer. Tried to go for some fancy footwork, but ripped away by the other end. A good demo of the Zoshion. Maybe heard us talking about them a bit, but also taken out of the equation was Taco Stash by Jordan. Some potential here for Mayhem in the box. That could have been on target. Good transition, though, from Slayer. Captain in the driver's seat for Shawnee State. That's what you expect to see from this player. The veterancy coming online for the Shawnee roster.
Slayer also trying to show his lead with the double tap. Not going to find it, but it's a perfect setup to Duckworth. Everybody frozen on the goal line.
Huge setup at that. Could have gone for the double tap potentially, but didn't really have the angle and tried to clear the net as well. But the positioning was awkward, to say the least, for Durham. Both players not in the best spot to try and make that save. So a simple shot for a simple goal, and Shawnee will take that every day of the week. But again, beat off the kickoff. Difficult position for Durham to find themselves in so quickly after being tied up.
Now it's just about going back into even territory. I will say in the beginning of that, up until that attack, I was kind of just bewildered by how slow it seems like Shawnee was playing. They're kind of just watching the ball, and sometimes it's nice to try and play predictively, but at a certain point, the more you wait, you have to react to what the other team is doing. That's never really where you want to find yourself. So now that they have the goal, maybe you're going to be able to actually step on the accelerator a bit more. Granted, you might want to take a little bit of the pressure off that pedal because these hits go really far away from them, still causing some trouble. Wildfire will be able to get that one on the backboard, and now Jordan can start up a transition and then some with a hefty clear.
And this is some of the symptoms we saw for Durham a couple of times. Defense was not their strong suit, especially when counterattacks came out against them. We saw it happen when they lost to Ball State in the first qualifier. We're seeing it happen a little bit more here. Haven't been capitalized on by Shawnee State just yet. We still see some signs of weakness from them that they need to shore up if they want a chance to come out on top in at least game 1.
Tago's going to grab that mid boost, leave it to Slayer, who will certainly get past the first player. How about a second setup to Duckworth? That shot is going on target. I think he might have been better off if going for the pass back, but we'll never really know. How about try number 2? Slayer is going to send it right back to that same corner. Zoshion gets a catch and we'll be able to get it further forward. But again, Shawnee just a little bit too spaced out. I've noticed a couple times that they're covering a lot of ground, but the problem is they're not actually providing that second layer on these attacks. So once one Durham player gets past the first player, then it's kind of just open range for them.
Might be open range and open season here for Zoshion if they can get a solid setup. Net cleared for a second. Wildfire could have gotten the shot, but wasn't quite expecting the speed of the ball to be so slow off the backboard there. So not the best position that they found themselves in. And And they will want another pass at that shot. And maybe be able to get their lead back for themselves as they gave it up a bit too soon, I would say, in this first game, and might be a chance for a lead here for Shawnee, and that's going to be an easy one for Taco Stash.
That is quintessential Slayer gameplay. Goes for the air dribble, doesn't have it, and then says, hey, Jordan, come here. Whether or not you get the save, you are going to be distracted. Taco Stash knows it, the longtime teammate of Slayer. He knew that was guaranteed so long as he just trails it all the way down. Durham getting countered hard to be able to fall behind.
Huge one there for Shawnee to potentially take this game. 1 goal is all that is needed, and yes, they did give one up in the first minute, but this has been dominated by Shawnee for the majority of game number 1. I mean, looking at the shot totals, only 3, just a few more from Shawnee, but even then, it's exactly what the kind of offense we want to see from Shawnee State for them to potentially come out on top in this first battle between these two rosters. And this is the first look we've seen in Summer Series for Durham since we saw them last season. Didn't play in CRL. Shawnee, well, they've been playing in everything but CRL for quite some time for their roster of Slayer and Taco Stash from IRSC. And Duckworth's been with the squad of Shawnee for a while, so he's pretty excited to have a solid roster to work with. And defense is working out well for him there.
Now, it's got to feel like you're a kid in a candy store when you're able to actually finally get a roster that you truly believe in, and you're able to then lock on through. But the thing is, you need everyone on the same page. Nobody anticipating this one. Zocian crossing up the defense after the infield. Wirefire just had to be patient and then snipe that top corner.
Huge shots coming out from Wildfire, really leading the charge on offense for their team. The rest of their teammates really supporting them. And Zocian, yet again, the playmaker for the squad. Jordan, really the defensive mastermind with 3 saves to their name. But will that be enough to stop things before we get to an overtime situation? The shot comes through. There goes Zocian, and Jordan will just get the angle, and there it goes through. Potential for Shawnee to come back, but 3 seconds might not be enough time.
That's just a clean beat from Jordan. Zocian didn't do anything. Slayer didn't do anything. Why that's an in-and-out save, I simply do not know, but it does not work. And that is the risk you take when you go for a mechanic like that. Off kickoff. You do see Slayer get the win, but it's pure Zocian possession. Flick high in the middle. Means that Duckworth is there, but so is Taco Stash. They both committed, which means now it is really going to be a frenzy on the far side as Shawnee desperately trying to get these flicks up, and it's why it's such a difficult task. Durham taking game number 1.
Well, you don't see on camera, and you will in a second. Cat is in my face this entire time at the end, celebrating with Canada, I guess.
Yes.
An honorary citizen for Canadians everywhere. But I do have to say, Jordan, MVP, but that is because they are the savior of the day for this series, or at least this game individually for Durham. Yes, Zocian with the best setups, Wildfire with the most goals, but Jordan, if it wasn't for them, easily would have been a runaway game for Shawnee State.
Yeah, it could have been really dangerous down the stretch, especially when Shawnee got their goals, started to really ramp things up. But then Durham showing a lot of resilience, just getting a lot of shots off that weren't just a first effort. Jordan's game winner eventually was just a clean beat out, and I don't think anyone on Shawnee was really positioned for that. But for the most part, it really just took a lot of doing, getting consistent shots to the point where the defender just can't get in the way. Hello, Cat. It's nice to be able to join on through. It's nice. I mean, your Canadian hype, it lures in the Cat.
It does. It very much does. And it also lures in the competition. I mean, this is what we expected, though, for the series for Shawnee and Durham, is that this was going to go down to the wire. It went down to the wire in game 1. And really that last second goal that we saw from Jordan is what cemented that victory. There was no chance to come back, and we'll see what happens in this next one.
Yeah, and one thing that I'm definitely looking forward to is whether or not Shawnee has a kind of the long talk in that 60 seconds now that we load into Utopia for game number 2, how much they want to distribute their rotations between making sure they lock down and get their boosts, and they always have resources, and also just being able to keep consistent pressure. It felt so awkward watching these longer reads come through. A touch comes through on Durham that's not necessarily the most secure, but then there's just nobody in the zip code to take advantage of it.
We really need to see Shawnee take advantage to more opportunities that they were given. I mean, there was some shakiness defensively from Durham throughout a lot of that game, and they could have easily had such a larger lead once they were able to get one. And Wildfire continues with the consistency, got the first goal in the last game, gets the first one here.
Yeah, that's a rough one. Jordan was just kind of waiting that one out, and that's the issue of trying to play into players on the sidewall. Sometimes you really do have to just keep it down on the ground, force a 50, because Slayer, as he lobs that one, is playing directly into Jordan's hands. Even worse, he's playing into Wildfire's hands as well. Continues to have that hot streak of shots for Durham, really not missing too many of the chances he gets presented with. Taco Stash and Duckworth also in the waiting wings for Shawnee. Not too shabby. That dish almost find its way in, and Taco Stash followed through a little bit of a weaker flick, but that'll only go to the corner.
Shawnee really trying to see what they can do to get out of their end as well here. Completely different start to what we saw at the beginning of the last one. Of course, we did have that opening goal from Durham, but Shawnee seemed to quickly turn things around in that second minute of time where they were able to score and even things up and keep the pace in their favor possession-wise. And, well, possession's been in the orange side for the majority of this first minute and some change, and we'll see if it continues that way for the rest of game two.
Duckworth almost get on top of that one, but instead it's going to be Slayer with a carry, or rather the attempt at one, because there's no more boost in that tank. So Duckworth now trying to gather it down, and again, Shawnee is rushing so much. That should be a wide open shot for Jordan, if not for Duckworth being able to save that one. Still not done. Zosian up directly, and really puts that one back. Not really anything that's going to be troubling the Shawnee defense. However, that might yet again, Durham starting to set up a wall in the midfield.
So close yet so far for a second Durham goal, and I feel like this is the way the series is going to go. 1-goal differentials across the board. Unless we see a complete collapse of the defense of Shawnee or even Durham like we almost saw in that last one. Solid shot from the side of Shawnee, but the demos won't really come in time for them to clear the lanes. And as I say that, though, Taco Stash 1v1 situation doesn't really even out the way that they wanted, and it will go by the wayside yet again. Shawnee could have gotten that goal and tied things up quickly there before the half, but somehow Durham, every time there is an open opportunity for Shawnee, ends up being there at the last second.
And that's the issue of a lot of attacks, is that it doesn't really matter how well it's set up if you're not able to actually get past that final step, because everything else is just the development. You need that execution, and right now from Shawnee, a lot of it is just struggling to get out of their half. Their clears are not convincing, and even here when they do look like they have passes on the backside, Wildfire was looking out of the corner of his eye for that. They were waiting for that. It's the anticipation play from Durham that's standing out to me right now. Even on the 50s, for the most part, getting all the reads they need to, and they're going to escape yet again.
And Durham seemed to be escaping with this potential win in this game. They got the first goal in the opening 20 seconds, and there really has been much to say for Shawnee State afterwards. And that's the biggest question mark is, okay, they had some consistency, had some issues here and there. I mean, Taco Stash with the majority of pressure, but Slayer relatively silent in game two. Only 58 score total. Hasn't been as involved as you would like to see, and that might be a symptom of Durham just focusing their efforts on Slayer, on that captain presence, and making it so that SSU just doubt themselves. But Wildfire, I'm kind of doubting what that challenge was, and this might be a potential goal if it wasn't for the demo that helped Zoshian get the save.
And now it's still going to be somewhat open for Slayer to be able to go through. I think he had a pass into Taco Stash, but opts for the low 50. Duckworth going across the goal, not finding any bump, but that's why Taco will be able to slowly fill on through, along with Slayer in support. Deflection middle. Duckworth might have had an attempt at this one, but Slayer tried to chase. Everyone backed off. And again, this is what I keep returning to. Shawnee just too far away from most of these plays to take advantage of when Durham is miscalculating some of these reads.
Now Wildfire, main offensive scorer on this team for Durham thus far, leading the charge again on offense into this last minute of regulation time for game two. Just trying to do what they can to keep this away from the side of SSU, and Duckworth. Solid initiatives, but not really much backup from his team and confidence from them as well. And a clear out barely saved by Taco Stash. Did have enough boost in time regardless, though. If there was a bit better of a challenge from Durham, could have easily been the second goal for them, but they seem to be complacent having this 1-goal lead. Feel a lot more comfortable, though, if they did have a second for the victory. And there might be one there from Wildfire if it wasn't denied by Duckworth.
Really do like that from Wildfire, diving on through, getting those dishes, and now it's all up to his teammates for being able to also share the load here as they try to get the defense ready. That will be a clear from Jordan. That'll do most of the job, that clear. And along with Zosian follow-through might be the rest of it, but now it's up to Shawnee, taking us all the way across the pitch. Slayer going to try and start with a low flick. Jordan read that one with ease. Now Wildfire just trying to escort this one down. They're playing clock management, and they do it so well. Durham taking another game, moving on to match point.
And that one felt like less of a steal out from under the noses of SSU. It seemed like SSU just had no momentum, no wind in their sails, and really not many opportunities against their opponents. I mean, even with the 5 demos from Duckworth, you would believe that would lead to some opportunities, but only 3 shots and all the saves that they had to make, well, they got stuck in their side for the majority of that game, and it was a difficult spot to come out from and breathe some air as they'll take those 60 seconds if they can going into this next game. But really, Taco Stash Slayer not readying up right away, and I think a lot of this comes down to, well, they need to play a lot more confidently going into game 3. Otherwise, they're going to be swept by Durham here.
And confidence is, I think, a great term to bring up because I'm not seeing it from Shawnee State. I see the air dribbles, sure. I see these kind of longer passes they're attempting, but ultimately, the amount of times I see them rotate up half-heartedly, it hurts me. It really does, because I know how aggressive this team can be and how coordinated they are, but occasionally there are these just moments where you'll see Durham under pressure, and then they'll lob a ball. It's sitting in the middle. It's something they could dive on, and then I see a player drive up, look at it, kind of hesitate, and then turn around and just rotate out. Like, you got to dive in at a certain point. Yes, it's only a 1-goal game. You don't want to get hard countered. You know that Durham is capable of that. But at a certain point, you got to really start pushing the envelope and say, hey, I need you to react to me. I need you to be able to actually respect my challenges. Because as this play keeps going, with how many fake challenges are really non-committal Shawnee is showing, I'm seeing Durham just start to get relaxed. They are not concerned when they come out of their half because there's no reason to be.
This is the Shawnee we saw lose to Stockton in the lower bracket of Qual 1. Not the Shawnee we saw go to Game 5 against ISU in that first qualifier and destroy UTK chances and hopes and dreams of making it into Summer Series once they qualified in that second one. But again, Taco Stash, we know how resilient they are on offense and a decent setup for them, but Duckworth not in the best position. Thankfully enough for them, no good position for Durham to capitalize on that moment of weakness. Seems to become more than moments recently for SSU that they need to clean up.
And Duckworth will have the initial clear. Taco Stash is to dive at this one, which will actually work out really well for Duckworth because he is seized on the opportunity. That's a bit more like what we're used to from Shawnee.
It's got to feel good for Duckworth, who put in so much work on the offensive side for their team in the last game. Finally granted a goal after being scoreless that entire 5 minutes. And a little bit more in it to that first game. The first time we have seen a lead from Shawnee State, so this could be their chance to start the reverse sweep train out of the station. Get it all fueled up and ready for the fire that is about to be Wildfire, taking that goal away from Shawnee State, who could have easily gotten a second one on the board.
And Slayer also got a demo, so if Duckworth was able to win that aerial, could have been another goal, but instead we're going to go back to midfield. We're going to go back to Jordan, one of the most competitively accomplished players on the pitch. If we don't include Slayer, who I guess is a pro coach, so, you know, a lot of regional victories back in the day for the SSA sides. He's been able to coach, but now he's got to focus on CRL. He's got to focus on this double tap, and he will indeed get that save away.
I'm wondering if he joined Shawnee because it's 1 letter away from SSA, SSU, SSA. I mean, it's close enough.
It's what he's used to, you know? He doesn't
Exactly.
have to redo everything in his branding.
Just change 1 letter, and that's all you need. But we need them to change 1 number, and that is the goal scoring category. Almost see it there for a second. The demos come out galore, and Taco Stash will strike true.
And if nothing else changes about the play style, you can rely on Slayer always going through the back line for Wildfire, just staring at the ball, and then last second might realize, wait, I only see 2 names on the blue side, and suddenly the third is going to just tear right through his car. Unfortunate for the side of Durham. They are really locked into their half, but this is kind of the adjustments I expect. Slayer is a player, but he's also a coach in IGL.
What
He's
is
the
happening?
one trying to propel everyone forward. Taco Stash, what happened? If I didn't know better, that's a controller, DC.
That was unfortunate, to say the least, for Shawnee State, but Durham counting their lucky stars on that play. It might have more opportunities for success. Still plenty of time. It's felt like an eternity, but again, Jordan is wanting to rewind the clock that time. Could have been a simple goal for them, but denied by the woodwork yet again for Durham, who really haven't been able to get as much going offensively this time. I mean, we have, yes, seen 4 shots, but Taco Stash himself on Shawnee has 4 shots total.
And it can be a little bit more aggravating, especially when these games have been going your way. So when you're on the side of Durham, I think the worst thing you can do is start, not to say panicking, but start to get a bit more anxious and say, well, we need to maybe step this up. Do we need to change stuff? I think for the most part, they're doing fine. They're still getting shots off. For example, all these pinball shots are still necessarily making Shawnee sweat. Duckworth with no boost, still able to get that save away. And now Taco Stash, understanding they have time on the ball, can buy a little bit of space for their teammates to get some boost, which they'll need. Slayer quickly up for Zocian. No double to be found off the post, and yet still, Slayer's the first to it.
A Wildfire with no boost as well couldn't really advance down the field to back up their teammate for the follow-through, because if they were there, simple goal after that deflection from Slayer. Nonetheless, though, with less than 2 minutes to go, I feel like Durham can't afford to be passive here, and that's exactly what we want to see from this squad. Zocian takes the charge, and, well, Jordan will get the final touches after 6 shots. Finally a goal.
Yeah, that's the danger of trying to play those mechanical clears out. Taco Stash is going for the air dribble into a flip reset extension, but because Durham knows he has no boost, they just wait. And once that ball is free, it is an open air dribble. The space between Taco Stash and the rest of his squad is too great. It is something that the other team is going to eat up every single time, no matter the opponent, much less the squad of Durham. So hope yet for the Durham faithful to be able to secure this sweep. Now they just have to do something with the remaining 90 seconds.
I still can't believe Jordan had 6 shots and only has that 1 goal. That just goes to show that the defense of Shawnee that much stronger than we have seen thus far. Again, the shot's not as quality from Durham, and that's been a consistency issue for them. Zocian tries to delay the play just enough, and the counterattack might be dangerous here from Taco Stash, but couldn't get the boost, luckily enough, for Jordan himself. And loses the 50-50 that they had to win and had the boost to work with, just not the best angle to challenge at.
Slayer good bumped out of the way. Zocian with the catch. That's comms to perfection from Durham.
Huge there. Unfortunate for Taco Stash and save for Slayer, who says bye-bye as they go exit camera left. Perfect synergistic play from Durham to tie things up. And this is why you can never count out this squad who wants the 3-0 sweep. They know how crucial it is for game differential going into the later stages of Summer Series. Potentially, depending on your placement, it could be decided by a single game.
Slayer has a lot of boost and uses absolutely none of it. You're going to have to explain that one to me, as it looks like Shawnee State, they are getting put into the blender by Durham. They can barely react to some of these reads. They're just so quickly seized upon by the Canadians.
Oof. That's got to hurt. And explaining that is that, well, Slayer looked up and then realized, oh, I don't have this, and decided not to challenge at that point in time. A glitch of the Matrix for them, and this might be another one if Jordan gets that through. The outplays are coming out from Durham, especially once they have control of the ball, and that's been the biggest difficulty for both these teams is defense. There goes a counterattack, easy for Taco Stash on the cherry picker position.
Yeah, I'm really curious about what happened here. Zocian and Wildfire. See, I was thinking to myself, maybe that's a call off. Maybe Wildfire doesn't want to touch that one, but at the end of the day, you both can't be flipping at this one. So maybe get into your heads a little bit, Durham. You don't want to just truly run off of instinct. Sometimes you got to play things a little bit safe, especially with under a minute to go. Not like this off the kickoff. Is it again?
No.
Yes, it's Taco Stash between the sticks. This game has been pandemonium, Bod.
This has been mayhem, but also mistake central for a lot of these teams, and that is not the way you want things to go after being equalized so close into the last few seconds of Game 3. You could have had a sweep on your hands for Durham, but with the way things have been going and with the pace that has been set, especially by Taco Stash with those last 2 goals for the hat-trick, I don't see a chance of escape for at least the clean sweep for the side of Durham unless things change in these next 10 seconds.
And that should be a decent read for Duckworth to be able to get on top of, and now it's just about making sure you read those aerials. Taco Stash kind of bailed on this one, which means Wildfire could get a 50. He does not, but Jordan certainly does. Off the backboard, into the middle. It's Jordan's there in front of the goal, but so is Taco Stash, able to get the save, and Shawnee barely holds on to keep themselves alive.
That was a messy game, to say the least. And that's what we've seen so far for Summer Series, which is great, because you can always tell that they are going to just give it their all, even if it's not the cleanest play. 7 shots from Taco Stash, 8 from Jordan, a shootout, to say the least, where a lot of these plays could have been done with at the midfield line if there's some better rotations from both squads. So curious to see how things adapt in this next game. Shawnee should have easily had the win, but it was so close and so dangerous for them at the end of the day because of the pop-off potential of Durham, where both these squads need to realize, okay, yes, we're getting saves, yes, we're getting a lot of shots, but we got to do something to prevent these opportunities from developing in the first place.
Well, and that's the biggest thing is that when it comes to the side of Durham or Shawnee or really any team across the CRL in East or West, it is ultimately going to be a situation in which you play your game plan, you get your reads, and then, I don't quite have that read, goal. Almost every time when you have that awkward read, it leads to a hyper dangerous situation. And I will say, even though not every single moment was immediately on target, there were a couple times where both Durham and Shawnee had to pull out these crazy goal line adjustments, saves to the corner, and all of that comes from the fact that I think they're in their heads a bit. You see how often they're pre-jumping some of these reads or trying so hard to get an air dribble extension when in reality, the comm should be, hey, take your time. It's fine, like no danger or something. But because they know the stakes, they're on stream, they want to impress everybody, they want to get that series victory, start off their round robin league play. I think that's why we're seeing what we're seeing. So maybe it's just a couple game jitters. We're moving into the beef of the series, trying to see if we can get to game 5 here on Salty Shores.
The map of Summer Series itself, bound to get to there at some point in the East, and well, we did in the first series, so good to see some fight out of both of these squads, but need some more consistency, and that's what we talked about is key for both of these squads. They lacked in the first qualifier, made it through, barely so for both of these rosters a couple of times. I mean, almost saw a potential chance for the side of Mississippi State University taking down, or Southern Miss, excuse me, taking down Durham before 15 on the clock already, and both these teams giving it their all to be the one to lead the charge, get the first opening goal, which has been, I guess, the decider with these close games.
Yeah, and really when it comes to all these situations, it does come down to just individual brilliance at times with a lot of these saves across. Right now, we are really cooking.
What?
It seems like Shawnee with the Bears not coming away with a goal because the goalie standing tall, playing their angles correct, and Durham somehow, after repeated barrages on their goal, after about 90 seconds straight being under the gun, they are not falling behind.
That one should have been a surefire goal, and this might be one here if it isn't stopped, and there it goes yet again off the crossbar. Duckworth could have had that shot. Nobody would have been able to get up in time for the save, but opted for the setup play for their teammate instead, and maybe going a little bit too fast, but not this time as Jordan barred down and in. Took some time in the last game to get on the board, but this time with 3 shots, they get one for themselves.
Love that from Jordan. Some of my favorite air dribbling is not always when it's just glued to your car. It's being able to lob it up, put it in a situation where you have boost to extend it. You can also fake below, and you see the goalie kind of bite on that one. They play that in-between read because he can't really commit to either one. Jordan knows he has him on the hook and just immediately taps one slightly over, but tucks under the bar. Expert play, but doesn't mean they're out of the woods. The very next attack, Shawnee evens us up.
And this is what we come to expect from the Shawnee State University roster. The Bears will not go down without a fight. Slater was already coming out of the net to go for a demo onto Wildfire if it was needed. Already thinking a couple steps ahead if the first shot doesn't go through. And that's what we have witnessed from the side of Shawnee. And it has been lacking a little bit from Durham. Their follow-up plays, not the best quality. That's what led to their demise in that last game. Of course, the counterattack and, well, kickoff goal didn't help. But it took them quite some time to even get on the board in the first place to make it competitive.
Wow, it's a nice clear out to Taco Stash. He wanted the double. You could tell just how fast he was going to it, but he got to it too fast. Had to lean back, and now that attack's out the window. Now how about Durham with Jordan and a flip reset and a 50 as well. Slayer, the massive Octane CSR, pulls on through with a save. And now try number 2 comes in from Durham. The skim for Wildfire, not going anywhere.
Fortunate for Wildfire, too, they didn't have the best landing that time and was not able to recover for the opportunity for a 50-50 challenge afterwards. But Duckworth really been one of the stars of the show, who's been at Shawnee for some time and has waited for this roster to come together for their program to have their name spoken among the top teams out there in Collegiate Rocket League. And, well, this is the first step of many. If they can pull off this reverse sweep against Durham, who looked pretty confident when they did have their game wins, that'd be a great step in the right direction to start off Summer Series strong for them.
I mean, even when Durham is losing, they're still looking good. They're able to get their shots
True.
off, and certainly you can never count out Jordan. I believe right now is the sub before TSM within the RLCS, and right now he is certainly doing his best, along with Zocian, getting that one, but 2 saves. If not for Duckworth, that's a fast break down the other side. Jordan's going to send it to the skies, but Wildfire really just has to watch that one as Taco Stash will score it over to Slayer, who will try to drag that one forward, take a 50 into Taco Stash. How about Duckworth on the back post, and this time Durham cannot reach.
Don't doubt the Duckworth, especially Slayer when they get a great possession play. Taco Stash, I mean, everyone getting involved from Shawnee to get that goal on the board, to get us that much closer to the Game 5 that we said was fated with this series and based on the performances during the qualifiers for these two teams. But the biggest mistakes have been on the defensive end for Durham, and they have not been able to really recover after that. The demos, of course, help here and there for the side of Shawnee, but positioning has also been a struggle for Durham. We do see Jordan with potential. The net almost cleared out, but the squishy save is going to be good enough.
Yeah, this time Slayer actually does get on top of it and times it flawlessly, so well done. To be able to still have that confidence to never stop going for those reads, but this time actually be able to position appropriately. And it's really the change of pace from Shawnee that I do like. They're going for these quick, rapid recoveries onto these attacks, but on that last goal, you can see them kind of just broaden their horizons a little bit, take a deep breath, and then find that pass instead. It's that kind of final touch on a lot of these plays that I feel like Durham has been lacking. It's mostly just been straight line plays, which works to a certain extent, but if it isn't really kicking into gear, then this is where you need to get experimental, especially now in these final 30 seconds.
What's interesting to note, whenever Slayer and even Taco Stash were in Collegiate Rocket League matchups, they went to so many Game 5s. So it wouldn't put it past them to have been like, okay, regardless of what happens, we are going to force that Game 5. So we have some games on our side, regardless of who comes out on top. If it's us, if it's them, it doesn't matter. Get to that Game 5. That is the goal for now. And we see that with less than 10 seconds to go, about to be a possibility, and less than even a possibility, or more than that, a guarantee for these two teams. One final shot, though, does go by the wayside, and it will be Shawnee forcing a Game 5 and a reverse sweep on the horizon.
Well, yeah, if nothing else, we do get to Game 5, so Desk somewhat knows what we're talking about. I was getting spooked, I'm not going to lie. I predicted Shawnee State in this one on Desk, and honestly, when I make these predictions, I don't really care if I'm right. It's mostly just, can I get close? And at least now, I feel at least a little bit vindicated. I don't know how everyone else feels, though, because when it comes down to truly getting it correct, knowing what team to win, I don't know. The reverse sweep is on for Shawnee State, but there's easily a world in which I can see Durham fixing these mistakes, VOD, and being able to just be able to spoil the party.
This is very interesting of a matchup, too, because if anyone has been paying attention to hockey recently, well, the Canadian team, the Oilers, almost reverse swept the Panthers out of Florida to, almost come out on top, and it was stopped in that final game.
Painful.
Well, we're seeing the opposite happen here, where the Canadian team is currently being reverse swept by the American team, and we are close to Independence Day, and they're trying to put off those fireworks a little bit early on in the evening.
And so being able to get that one off is nice, but if you want any hints on why Shawnee is playing a little bit better, I think you can only just have to point to the shot differential. 5 shots from Duckworth, but 10 in total. And the main thing that I'm noticing from Shawnee is my criticism of them in games 1 and 2 is that it felt so disconnected. They would get a shot and then they would just kind of sit back and observe the play, whereas now it seems like they're aggressing as much as they need to. And the moment they realize, hey, we might be overcommitting, then they start to back off. That little gap allows Durham to maybe get a touch or two, and then they get shut down. It's that little change of pace and misdirection on the offensive rotations that keep Shawnee in these attacks, and what makes, I think, Durham kind of have to play on the back foot. But all those previous games don't really matter. It's all about who wins this next one. 5 minutes on Champions Field, as it should be, against 2 top contenders in the East to see who takes this.
It was predicted to go to Game 5 by the Desk, but I don't think any of us could have predicted the path that we took towards it. Potential reverse sweep here for Shawnee, but it all is going to come down to how Durham performs with these counterattacks and the aggression we have seen from Shawnee. Shawnee, we know that they can put up with anything, but that's going to be a difficult spot to be in with no boost for Slayer. A simple shot from Jordan to go through.
And Duckworth, poor man, goes up for that aerial. Jordan reads that 100%. And then not only that, finishes the play. Yet Wildfire said, hey, great pass, Jordan. He's like, pass? What do you mean? That is all me. I'm soloing this.
And that's the earliest we've seen a goal from Jordan with the least amount of shots, too. Last time it was 3 shots and a goal. Before that, it was 6 shots before they were able to get a goal themselves. So becoming a bit more fine-tuned for their team in their first game of league play. Will that be enough for them to wait out these next 4 minutes. We've seen them get a 1-0 victory, but I don't think it's going to be that easy against Shawnee State as the series is developed.
No, and even though they have that first goal, that's like a low boost play from Shawnee. They're not really able to accentuate on that and be able to get out of this. Granted, it doesn't help when every single time Slayer is left alone with no boost, they are getting dunked to oblivion. Look at this from Zocian.
Oh, that sucks too for the other defender, Duckworth, who was trying desperately to take out the attacker. They took out Jordan, but didn't have Zocian in their front mirror. Instead, will be taken out of the equation themselves. And, well, there goes the goal yet again for Durham. This is a great start for them. 2 goals on top of them. But I don't think it's going to be that easy for them to close things out, even with this lead.
No, and if we're learning anything, it's really just coming down to these individual saves. Because we could see a world in which Shawnee has, I don't know, 10 boost more, or just takes a slightly different angle in these 50s, and we're still sitting at 0-0. It's really just coming down to individual moments of saying, hey, I need to make sure I lock down this angle, make sure they don't have this clear. And I think Durham is definitely doing well with that. Granted, Shawnee has their moments. This is the best one we've seen, and they'll take advantage.
The Slayer redemption arc no longer has no boost. Has a full team to work with, almost a full tank as well, and pretty much an open net, even though Zocian could have gone for the challenge. Not the best angle to be at to try and defend that from going through. It's a great way to bring it within 1, and that was the largest lead we had seen from Durham this entire series, where Shawnee, well, they're used to playing from behind, and we will definitely see them give it their all to tie things up quickly and at least give us a chance for OT.
Yeah, now Jordan trying to go to work again. He is out of boost, but I don't know how much Shawnee knows about that. Duckworth will call his bluff, though. Immediate challenge does result in somewhat of a weak touch, as Duckworth not going to find a demo on Wildfire, but a little bit of awkward touches in front of the goal. Zocian, I think, was trying to get sniped out of the air by Slayer. Ball still in front. That's double commit. Taco Stash putting in front. Duckworth with a bump attempt, and yet Wildfire still, with that orange trail, gets the deflection for the clear all the way down.
Sealing heroics from Wildfire to really try and set Zocian up for success, but Slayer bullying Jordan in the net, forcing him to go for the squishy save to get that one away from Taco Stash and thwart any of the mastermind plans that Shawnee State were trying to come up with on offense. Zocian again, though, gets the denial. Backboard it goes. There's a miss from Duckworth. There's the fall through. It somehow gets denied by the post and goes off by the wayside. That should have been a goal.
I feel like this is a challenge flag if it wasn't a video game. It's like I have no idea how that doesn't go in. This one might still be one. However, Taco Stash, after the save, has Slayer upfield, but Slayer has no boost. He's flipping around, trying to grab any sorts of pads. And now the giveaway to Jordan, not the player you want behind the ball. Taco Stash holds it up, and it looks like Shawnee survives it. One more Durham barrage.
That'll probably be more Durham barrages where that came from, especially with the time remaining on the clock. A little bit past the halfway point, and still chances for Shawnee to shine. They need to do just that, and more some. As Slayer, even with the demo coming out, no chance for the defense, who have just been in odd spots rotationally. They are so threatened by the potential of demos. Well, the bump onto Jordan does not help anything.
No, poor Zocian. He is flat-footed. He is sitting exactly where you need to be in terms of being able to read. You want to look left to right so that you can actually cover more of the goal rather than just facing straight on. The problem is when the deflection comes in. Eerily similar goal to goal number 1 for Shawnee. So that is going to be Slayer getting one more, but that's fine because right off kickoff, it's Jordan.
Revenge for the kickoff goal that happened to them 2 games ago. Or actually, no, it was last game, excuse me. As we do see them come out on top with the lead yet again. All the effort that Slayer is trying to put in, the backpack they are putting their team in for the most part throughout this game has not been enough for them to come out on top. And speaking of Slayer, they could have won that 50-50, could have potentially tied things up. Yet again, a good center from Taco Stash, and everyone on Shawnee State firing on all cylinders. And a firing shot from Taco Stash easily put through. The defense yet again lackluster from Durham.
Yeah, but how is he ready for this one? Duckworth gets on this, but that's just pure 50. It goes flawlessly down to Taco Stash. If that wasn't a deflection, I would have assumed it'd be calmed somehow. But regardless, Shawnee State is exactly where they need to be on the positioning. And now we go right back to this shootout gallery right now that we're getting it off kickoff. It might get even worse.
What?
It's right to Taco Stash off the boop.
Taco Stash yet again. When you need someone to get a kickoff goal, they are the one to ask. As Slayer involved in yet another goal for their team. I think has almost 100% goal participation for their squad for the most part. But regardless, they will be happy to get the lead for the first time we have seen here as well in Game 5. They've been playing from behind for the most part. Well, Durham, they've been struggling when they've been from behind, and there is a shot off the crossbar. It goes yet again. Slayer saves the day. In less than a minute to go. We will see if Durham can be stalwart enough to tie things up and send things to an OT situation. Otherwise, based on evidence of this series, Shawnee should take this.
Yeah, now this is the awkward point where you have to ask the tactical decision. Do you keep playing the way you're playing because it is working, or you start to lock down? You want to play tighter defense. I think they would opt for the latter with touches like that because that's down to Jordan, but that is not an angle he can hit it from. All players from Durham collaborating around the ball, but now they're nowhere to be found. Duckworth open shot, Zocian with the recovery, Wildfire and Taco Stash duking it out for these reads, but it doesn't look like Shawnee has any interest in leaving this ball alone. They keep getting these half rotations, they keep getting these pinches, and now you only have to defend probably 1 or 2 more attacks, and that is only one of them.
That might be the only attack that they really need to defend. Bump into the goalie from Wildfire, but Zocian misses the touch and not exactly where they want to be in these last few seconds. Right in front of the net it goes, and nobody is there to commit. Wildfire, Zocian, no boost, no chance, and Shawnee State will pull off the reverse sweep. Unfortunate again, Canada, heartbreak.
And that is why I had some faith in Shawnee. They're a clutch team, I will say. Not liking what I was seeing in games 1 and 2, but you see the adjustments, the maturity from them, understanding, hey, we're giving way too much space, let's close that one down. And then over time, it's like, hey, we're actually giving way too little space. Let's just make sure we find a happy medium. And once they did, despite all of the chaos that was going on in 4 and 5 for our games, it did look a lot cleaner down the stretch. Durham, again, I have questions about them, but they're starting to answer a bit more of them. I see the game plan from them. It's just, unfortunately, you can't always clutch out these series.
See, this is why I put my channel points on Shawnee. The clutch factor of Slayer and Taco Stash, and we got to give credit where it is due also to Duckworth. I mean, this entire roster has that potential to be a top contender. We talked about consistency where it was a struggle for them, and we kind of saw a little bit of that in the first 2 games, but once they were able to target the other team even more so, focus on that aggressive play style and putting on so many more shots that we were used to seeing from them. I mean, this was a shootout to say the least between these 2 rosters. Definitely more than 30 shots across the board, but still, unfortunate for Durham. They'll have to lick their wounds. It's only the first series of Summer Series, so they still have so many more matches to play, potentially make it into that top 6 and have redemption. Kudos to them at least for having it go to a Game 5 for that loss, because that does benefit them in the long run, even if they do take that L.
Yes, and I do know Durham, they have a lot of potential to excel, and same with our desk. I mean, we're great at what we do, I'd like to think. So we were able to cover the cast. I would like to talk to Herc and Bass to be able to see how they're feeling about that game, because we did indeed end up going into Game 5 like we predicted, but desk was somewhat split on how that actually is going to work on out. So being able to see Durham fall, I know in the background we're hearing apparently one such talent for our team that on the broadcast is making sad Canada noises, TM. That is the
sad Seb noises.
that is the definitive description of what's going on for right now.
Well, Durham, again, still have so many more chances. They have that opportunity. They've only played a single series out of the rest of them, but we do have the desk here to break things down. So let's talk to Bass and Herc and see what their thoughts were. I mean, I know I went for Canada. I put my channel points for Shawnee, and Shawnee did not disappoint throughout that series, Bass.
No, not at all. I mean, we expected Shawnee to be good on that one, and I do think we all kind of, talked about specifically the clutch factor that would really kind of take them over the edge. But the big thing we saw was not only them being able to take it over the edge, but really starting to, I'd say, frustrate all of Durham. The demos, the backline plays, the interference. I mean, Herc, you and I were watching that one. At a certain point, we were starting to just kind of believe like this was going to be Shawnee's for the way that they were almost bullying Durham at the end there.
It had to happen at some point, okay?
It's the first mute, it happened.
But I was saying, like, the turning point for me, honestly, was seeing Duckworth get really involved on a lot of those plays. I think that was the biggest question a lot of people had, was whether or not he was going to be able to slot in, or if it was going to be kind of like a Taco Slayer show with Duckworth on the side. But the fact that he was able to tee up so many shots made the Shawnee State so much more almost inevitable to be able to clutch up, because he was able to match his teammates' energy.
He was impressive. It was an impressive debut here for Shawnee. Like we said, this is a brand new roster for them, but it is not an unfamiliar roster overall. We've seen a lot of incredibly talented teams throughout our day, but we've still got more to go. We're going to take a quick break, but when we return, it is Illinois State University versus the brand new additions of Syracuse. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with even more Summer Series action.
Your dream is the first step on your educational path. Let Nelnet Bank help you go from dreamer to achiever with a private student loan. Simple application process, flexible repayment plans, and easy co-signing options. Apply at nelnetbank.com/elevate.
Nothing cuts quite like a memory, especially one that you're trying to forget. But I can't find the energy to rewind and reset. I know you don't wanna be used, but you use me to build up. You build up to break me down.
one more series to go. The third series for the Eastern Conference. We did have one that we didn't really talk about too much that did happen early on. Kennesaw destroyed Stockton in a 3-0 sweep that happened off stream. But apart from that, most of the feed has been filled by Maryville destroying everyone in the Western Conference 7 matches in a row. And the most difficult opponent was Oregon, who almost reverse swept them. But we had our first reverse sweep of the season here. Let's go with Shawnee State taking it over top of Durham. Unfortunate, of course, for the hopes of Canada, but it is just their first series of, 14 more that they have to go after this. 16 teams in each conference, so a lot of action in these 4 weeks of competition. But let's take a look at the match schedule on the matches we've had today. If you're just tuning in, definitely recommend going and watching those matches back. And again, Herc, I mean, we saw Colorado and Monterey, but that was still a decent series from both of them.
Yeah, that one, if you have the opportunity to go back and watch it, if you want a little clue into how the season might look for, honestly, both of these teams, that is one to go watch. How it looks on paper isn't quite how it went down in the series. It was much closer and much more back and forth than a 3-1 looks. But on the flip side of things, Shawnee State versus Durham, we obviously all just watched that one. That was probably way closer than I think most people thought it was going to be.
We didn't expect it to get to Game 5 with a reverse sweep and then the reverse sweep to be activated the way that it was. But the way Shawnee was playing, I mean, I feel like many teams would have fallen by the wayside to them. So kudos to them for having the adversity to overcome the challenge of Durham and come out on top with that victory for their first matchup of Summer Series and for the first, I think, season of Shawnee being in Summer Series as well. But Illinois State and Syracuse, we've seen these rosters before a couple of times. And speaking of the rosters, I mean, we have them here for you all to enjoy. ISU and Syracuse, I mean, we talked a lot about Syracuse coming into this Bass. And Gababy, is he going to be the savior for Syracuse to potentially make it into the top 6?
Okay, all right. I was not really sure where that one was going. You ended with top 6, and I went, all right, well, I'm going to have to rethink my response here. Gababy already is the savior for Syracuse. This is the best we've seen Syracuse in quite literally years at this point. They are very clearly a roster that went from fringe of CRL, CCA, Summer Series play to pretty definitively going to be there almost every time. We never really had a doubt if this team was qualifying. Do they make top 6 from that? Brother, look, it's the end of the day. I don't have enough time left here to just explain why that's not true. Like, it's just not happening. Q's, I'd love to see you guys correct us, but ISU were already a fringe team, and I think this is going to be a difficult task for them just to take them down.
Well, let's look at the rosters here for ISU and Syracuse as well. Talking about ISU, I mean, we've seen a lot of greatness from this squad. No Mansion Sif and CG and Leandro Bracao also as the coach on that roster. I mean, what can we expect from them, Taco, for this matchup and the rest of the Summer Series?
I mean, I think for both these teams, it's going to be a lot of proving ground because Syracuse obviously is a new roster coming into here. I think they're definitely looking forward to kind of proving that not only are they worthy of getting into an event like this, they are able to compete with the very best. But Illinois is a great litmus test team. This is a team that gets in league play. They're competitive with playoffs, not always getting there, but certainly showing that Lee Algebra, one of the, in my knowledge, one of the only positions in like all of Collegiate Rocket League where is a full-time salaried coach for the university. So certainly they're committed trying to go as far as possible. And CG No Mansion Sith, that is a roster that strikes terror in a lot of different teams. So I think if Syracuse fans out there want to see, hey, how's our inaugural run going? This matchup will be a great indicator of how well they can compete.
Let's see how well we get our predictions correct or wrong on the desk here for our final series of the day. Pretty decent results so far, and we have CCA mascot Marvin there on the cam for Bass as well. It's just been Cat Central here for the desk, but with that, starting with her going down the line, who is going to take it how many games for our last prediction of the day?
How many games? Oh my gosh. Honestly, I give it all the way to Game 5. As crazy
Valid.
as that sounds, I give it all the way to Game 5. I have been a big IRSC fan from the beginning. I love No Mansion. I think he's an incredible player. However, on the flip side of things, Syracuse, the name Gababy, honestly, even though this is Patrick, these are names that they are like forcing me to hear all the time because they are that good and they play that often. There is a part of me that is saying Syracuse, so I'm going to follow my gut.
That's fair. And I know Taco and Bass have some thoughts about Syracuse, not for themselves, but for
look at me like
their father sides of things. So how are you guys thinking this is going to go, and who's going to take this as well?
No.
Okay, after me. All right. Well, I mean, the main thing for me is that Bass and I learned fun trivia the other day that both of our fathers are both Rutgers alumnus who apparently despise Syracuse. So find that fascinating. Fun little fun fact. For me, though, I actually do, growing up, like Syracuse. I grew up in a town that's like about 2 hours away. I grew up watching a lot of their events, and I will say, they're not beating Illinois State this time around. I don't think that they are capable of it yet. I think Illinois State is way too cohesive. I watched Syracuse during quals. They beat my beloved USF, and I will say the games were a bit closer down the stretch. They got 3-0 into league play, but outside of Akron in their qual bracket, I don't think they've really been tested. I think Illinois State will definitely be that test. I'm going to give it to them in 4.
Okay. Bass, would you agree on that?
Yeah, more or less. I'll be real with you. There's not much spiel to be spieled here at this point because the thing is that the main reason I'm going to look at this one is that, like, if we're just going head-to-head, the biggest thing people have always said to ISU is that by far their best player is No Mansion. And that's not to take away from CG or Sith. It's just, it's No Mansion. I don't really think I need to elaborate further than that. When you look at Syracuse, their main guy is going to be their new addition in Gababy. And as good as Gababy is, he is not No Mansion. So if he wants to correct me today and prove me wrong, I absolutely welcome it. But I'm going ISU here. No Mansion's the GOAT, and until somebody dethrones him from that position, they're not beating them.
Eric, I'm not going to leave you out here to die on your prediction, so I'm also going Syracuse because of the fact that ISU last season of CRL gave up the most random losses for no reason.
That is true.
And this would be a chance that can happen. Yet again, we need that consistency. That's been an issue for so many teams in Collegiate Rocket League. It needs to be consistency Rocket League, or consistent Rocket League for these rosters. So we'll see if that happens. Who's going to come out on top of this matchup? Let us know if your channel points in the chat. But the game is ready. We're about to get into it. So Bass and Taco, Team Fish Taco, take us into the matchup.
Here, we're now, it's time, and I'm realizing I'm just singing lyrics from Athena. I'm going to stop doing that and just put my channel points where my mouth is and put them on to ISU, which both of us are relatively confident in, but I also think we have to
put it on at the same time, and it went from 80% Syracuse to 91%. I put 100K on them. I put 100K on there just because I've been confident today on how accurate we've been, and you know what? Might as well just put our money in our mouth is. With that said, I think we both pick ISU. We also know how incredibly good the Syracuse team has looked, and who knows how this one's going to work out. I'm just here for some good Collegiate Rocket League.
Chat, you have 10 seconds left to try and put a counter against us. Even if you put down 1,000 channel points and Syracuse ends up winning. Yeah, you'll take all of our channel points literally forever. However, I don't think the odds are in favor of Syracuse. Like we said, this is definitely, I'm not going to say a one-sided matchup, but it's a heavily favored matchup. There's just so many factors here at this point, Taco. I think another thing we have to mention, ISU's been here before. The last CRL league play we had, this was not only a team that made it in, but they were a team that were relatively competitive versus a Syracuse where this is completely uncharted territory for them. This entire roster has never made it into a league play or an event like this.
Yeah, it's been really close. I feel like Syracuse necessarily was a team that if you put them into a bracket in randomly generated opponents and started to get them through, they'd probably make it more often than not. They've just happened to get in a roster where it's just not enough. They get to like top 8, top 4, top 2 sometimes, and then you run into a team kind of like Illinois State. Redbirds getting the first goal after CG. That's a beautiful assist.
Yeah, it feels like the team is playing well throughout the corners. I did literally get clipped on in the pregame lobby here from Sith as he absolutely just nailed one out of the corner. So if he's feeling good, why aren't CG and No Mansion feeling good as well? Team starting off strong here, and they might not be done. CG trying to lead the charge yet again. We'll retreat for a moment. Patrick, let's see if you can take away some of our doubts here. Can you get Syracuse on the board and show that you're going to at least put a fight in this series?
Well, we'll see. Gababy certainly try to back up Patrick, but Patrick will just call his own number. Problem is he's got no boost to be able to continue that one out. So here comes No Mansion, with a more competitively accomplished player within the lobby, certainly making a lot of waves, and certainly I think has been a really smart pickup for Illinois State. I think when he first got recruited, it was not the name that came to the top of my list of possible attendees, and yet he's really shown his worth, and it's mainly just because he has a great first touch on a lot of these plays, and that's why Gababy challenges him early.
I will say, this ISU roster, I do think a lot of people had question marks around, mainly because of the fact that we saw the original signee in No Mansion and all went, okay, they better back up No Mansion with some crazy players of his caliber. And not to say that Sith and CG aren't necessarily of his caliber, but they were very clearly not the same reckonability that we see out of No Mansion. They've proven themselves time and time and time again. At this point, there aren't questions left to be answered. There's just goals to be scored.
Yeah, poor Syracuse. They got demoed. They're all in the back line, and that's just an open feeding frenzy for a player like No Mansion. Has the option for shooting, but he knows CG is just waiting in the middle. Why not dime it up, get the goal, get the assist, and now we're all just chilling here on the ISU side, being able to actually look back across the kind of spectrum of different plays and kind of have their choice here. Syracuse, I think the pace right now is just not suiting them.
Like we said, they're just unfamiliar to this. As much as we've seen Syracuse play through a multitude of different competitions within the collegiate space, this is going to be the highest level that they've been able to play on outside of maybe, I'd say, CECC Nationals, where I don't remember them doing all too well. So this is going to be a bit of an adjustment period for this team. They need to figure out how to play against teams that play at this speed, play at this caliber, and just don't really give you a moment to think twice.
No.
You might have wanted to think at least twice on that one. Patrick, that is not the challenge, bro.
No, this is Patrick is his name because he's able to get that read off. I was really anticipating this one as just kind of letting it go. That's something where comms are ultra important because as a defender, you do not know if someone's about to dive on that one, and yet Patrick pre-jumps that one as it falls, and then I think halfway through realized there's not really a way out, is there?
Oh, how do you get out of this one? No Mansion, full field air dribble. And Sith now trying to stunt. Don't let him do this. Do not let him do this. Oh, they won't, but they'll not let in the goal. All right, I'm not quite sure what's going on. One thing's for certain, though. Taco, you and I both had questions about, hey, how is this team going to try and find a little bit better of a rotation after quals? The answer is they haven't yet. It's 4 goals, and it's only been 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's a tough one as well. Gavilan, not necessarily doing the wrong option there, but the problem is he jumps so low with only a 0 boost in the tank, so you can only take that 50 so many different angles. Sith knows that, goes even higher onto it, and it finishes the job themselves. Syracuse, if you're playing off 50s, that's one thing, but that 150 completely undid the entire defense. There's 2 minutes gone in this one, Bass, but with only 1 shot on target from Syracuse this entire game 1, honestly, it already feels kind of like a go next.
I wouldn't disagree with you on that one, especially considering the fact that it's 9 shots from Illinois State and 4 goals. That means that 5 of those shots did not return into a goal, but there's 3 saves from Syracuse. They're rarely not hitting target, and even when they are hitting target on the other end, CG's making saves, and No Mansion's making the transition happen. Pass down to CG is intercepted. Out at midfield, Sith trying to continue the play. Can't quite do so, and that's not an open net. No Mansion is back for that one. Thought for a second, maybe we'd finally see Hughes on the board. That might have to wait till game 2. 75 seconds to go, and at this point, this has been all ISU.
We'll see Patrick be able to try and chase that down, but look, this is why I like ISU. Every touch has a purpose. Even when they don't have an attacking force, they're able to get their back passes. Everyone has their role, and they play it so well. Syracuse just trying to find a way to cut on in on this one. Gavilan, don't really blame him for going for that cut, but he's not going to get it. No Mansion gets somehow the craziest angle. It's not on target, but that is what he's capable of.
I feel a little bit bad that that doesn't end up turning into a goal, but I also don't blame neither CG nor Smith for not going for that, because they're looking at that one going, yeah, that probably should be saved. I mean, what do you mean it's lingering on the line? Oh, it's been there for 5 seconds? It's a bit uncharacteristic of Syracuse here, as we do expect them to maybe not necessarily be the same speed as ISU, but it feels like we're seeing Mach 7 speeds out of ISU right now, and maybe we're going like IndyCar speeds if you're a player on Syracuse.
Sometimes you kind of need a game like this, and I think this is a learning experience that every single, I would say, quote-unquote, new team in CRL, in these atmosphere, in the era of CRL, especially in the East, goes through, where you come in, you're playing and beating a lot of good teams, and then you get in and play like a consistent competitor in CRL, and you realize, oh, there are levels to this, so we're going to have to get used to this one. Illinois State putting on a clinic in game 1.
Well, Syracuse, congratulations on making it in the Summer Series. Congrats. Here's your reward. Yep. Welcome to it. ISU, an unrelenting force like that we said. They've been around. They've been good. Have they been the very upper echelon of CRL East or CCA Summer Series East? Not necessarily, but they've definitely been a good enough team. A lot of litmus tests here today when we look at this one. A Borregos in a Colorado matchup where both teams are kind of looking at it like, how good will you be in the West? A Durham who we haven't seen in a hot moment versus a brand new and revitalized version of IRSC, now Shawnee State. And we finish this one off with Syracuse now getting the litmus test of all of them. And I'm going to be real, Taco. I think they're failing the test so far.
Yeah, I mean, this is also game 1. This is not necessarily a team you might scrim. They didn't play them in the play-in, so they really don't have much preview outside of knowing maybe from ranked and 2s or something like that. Maybe some of these names. From Hoops, if you're Patrick, yes, a Hoops made indeed rocking the Season 14 Legendary Baller tag. But outside of that, it really does come down to the fact that this is a squad in Illinois State that does have, as I mentioned, full-time coach. Shout out to Liaj Rakow, longtime Ohio State coach, coming in. And when I talk to him, he says, yeah, we have a system that works well. They're buying into it. And I think right now we're kind of like reaching our flow state bit by bit. And that was last semester. Now they have kind of the summer to be able to work on it. And clearly things are still clicking for them. I'm not surprised Syracuse comes out slow, but of course, like any good team, they have time to talk through it, understand what they're doing wrong, and hopefully on Utopia, come by with a brand new stratagem to implement.
I say hopefully, or you say hopefully, I say they need to. If they do not change the way they played in Game 1, it will be the exact same result. I don't care if ISU aren't shooting the same degree. They need to find ways to just slow this team down. Whether it's in front of net, out at midfield, or somewhere in between, they have been the most dominant force in this series. That's putting it pretty lightly. Maybe Syracuse can change this here. They start off with some offense, no shot found from it, and oh boy. If No Mansion was able to turn that into a goal, at that point I'm already saying GG's go next, and the goal's not even scored yet.
Gababy has to bail out of this one. Problem is CG is breathing down his neck on this one, as Gababy will be able to get on that first touch. Sith deflection just has to watch that one slowly go by. He will trust No Mansion to fill in that gap. A nice little fake challenge will allow CG coming in. This is what I'm talking about. Illinois State, they don't rush anything. They don't know they don't really have to. They just kind of wait for their opportunity, and if it's not on in, they'll turn back. They'll let the rest of the rotation deal with it. And Syracuse, so far, not playing into that too much. In fact, might even have a chance, not for Sith on the recovery.
I like the physicality there, though. Finding the final defender back and trying to bump them off the line is almost what opened up the space for the first goal here for Syracuse, and would have been their first lead as well. Well, they're answering the question pretty quickly here. Are they going to play the same as the first? I'd wager no. This is a much better version of Syracuse so far. Don't make me eat my words. Oh, please, guys, don't make me eat my words here. Double commit, almost going to give up a goal, but nobody prepared from ISU to take the shot, so we'll stay 0-0 as we go into our second minute.
Gotta watch Patrick. He's got 0 boost back, so he needs that recovery. Gababy will be able to get the clear afterwards, but now, where's the next one? Sith able to just fly on by. No Mansion and CG, like I mentioned, just sitting back, biding their time. They're not going to overcomplicate anything that they don't have to, particularly because Syracuse does not have too much of a clear. Now crossfield pass, still read by CG. Nice heads-up play to make sure nothing happens as Syracuse is slowly starting to find their footing.
It's been a much better game out of Syracuse so far. It hasn't necessarily made me think that the results are going to change here, though, because ISU, like you've mentioned, playing patiently. They're not forcing the issue this game. They've recognized that they're not getting the opportunities they did in the last game nearly as easily, so they're waiting back, waiting for said opportunity, trying to find a little opening, a mistake out of Syracuse that they can try and exploit. You mentioned it before, this team has been working on their cohesion, working as a trio for at minimum a year now. It might be paying off. It doesn't pay off there, though. Great save out of Gavilan's going to send it to the other end. We get to halftime now in this game, and still, ISU not able to get on the board, but Syracuse doing a good job of giving them a fight.
Decent read by Gavilan. Problem is he needs the second one. No Mansion just playing a lap around the field. We'll send that one to Patrick, who will now, with Gavilan in the middle, trying to find him, but Sith just calling the bluff underneath. And you can see Syracuse wanting really to try to force those infield passes forward, and they're not always there, but at the same time, it doesn't seem like ISU has 100% of the read on. Open shot for Sith means that is a nice shot on target, but just a little bit off from the post here. It seems like ISU, you're waiting for that first goal, but fortunately for all Syracuse supporters in the chat, it has not come.
Part of it is also I'm seeing better reads off the backboard as Syracuse as well. A lot of the time the follow-up touches just were not there for Syracuse, and immediately an ISU player would be there, would shoot on target. Not happening this time. They're playing a better defense all around. Can they play defense here? They'll need to. CG gets this to the ceiling, now flat-footed on the line. Are everybody from Syracuse, but it will not make a difference except for on the follow-up, which also goes wide. I don't know how that's not a goal. I don't know how ISU are not in the lead, but Syracuse got to be pretty happy about it.
It's one of those moments where you just kind of hold your breath, you kind of clench your control a little bit tighter because you realize that, wow, I really played with my food there in front of the net. You only get so many chances at a play like that, and they're going to continue on this defensive streak. Gababy on the outlet to Patrick will get past one, but not past No Mansion. CG going to back him up as Sith gets a demo. How about a double tap from No Mansion from an ankle and still somehow not going in?
Offense immaculate here for ISU, but the defense has stepped up for Syracuse. 6 total shots, 6 total saves. They've been in front of every play that has turned into anything threatening. The issue, though, is they're only making saves. 0 shots registered through 4 minutes of play from Syracuse. If they want to try and get themselves back into the series, they should not allow this to become 2-0. They might have to anyways. Another save, the 7th of the game, will keep us still tied in our final minutes.
No Mansion Free flip over into the sidewall. We'll try to get that extension through. Not going to work. How about Sith going for a double of his own? Gavilan with a deflection. Patrick is up as well. He's got no more boost. He's got to rely on Gababy. Resources starting to dwindle here. No Mansion knows it. He's trying to keep it close. Sith, what can he do with this one? Just a light air dribble. Double commit again. No Mansion. Near post. Sith part 2. And this time it's going through with 16 ticks to go.
As you guys all know, the old saying goes, if you don't succeed, try again. I think that's 10 tries. That's how many shots it took them. 10 total for ISU before they find their first. And Syracuse, despite playing a much better game, now have only 15 seconds to try and keep this one extended. Kickoff goes in their favor. Can they do anything with it, though?
Sith getting a hefty clear. Patrick should have that one. Problem is, it doesn't go anywhere. Gababy has to dig this one out and try to throw it forward. Sith, however, with one final hit, might have dug the grave here for Syracuse. However, that's a half-decent 50. No Mansion in the middle. That should be Gavilan. Lobbed high. Gababy has Patrick and Gavilan in the middle. CG, though, sees through all of that. He will put that one forward, and Illinois State continues on their run to a sweep.
1-0, maybe not nearly as convincing as game 1, where they took a 4-0, just dominating victory. But something we have not mentioned thus far, Taco. We're 5 minutes away from a perfect sweep. We would have really gotten it all here in day 1 of Summer Series if we get a reverse sweep, a very, I'd say, stereotypical West matchup where the chaos was abundant, and then we get a perfect sweep against the newcomers in Syracuse. Man, we keep talking about a rough welcome into Summer Series. Perfect sweep against them? Yeah, that'd be the roughest welcome possible.
And I will say, despite all of that, to give credit to Syracuse, the defense looked a lot more stable on that game. Obviously, 9 saves, not really what you want to see, but you contrast that with the 0 saves from Illinois State because they have no shots on Syracuse. They were able to lock things down, but you notice, even though they had the chance to get on the ball, counter in the middle, they're looking for infield passes, they're not finding them. And that's why I need them to get a bit more experimental. If time Syracuse goes in the sidewall, they're going to throw it middle. Illinois State doesn't have to move. How many times did we call out CG for literally just standing still in the middle? Like, hey, I know you're going to hit it over here. I know you're going to hit it over here. And then it comes to him and he says, I told you, and then just intercepts it, throws it right back. You have to change things up. Even if you don't have boost, just keep it close. Play for 50s. Buy time for your teammates to get 100 boost, be able to get back into play. Because otherwise, it's just going to be Illinois State reading you like a book and continue to shovel it right down the middle.
I mean, these are collegiate students. I'd have to assume they know how to read a book. Again, assumptions not always going to go in my favor here. Source on that one. Yeah, good. You know what? Assumptions have worked out for us so far here today. I think both you and I have been perfect on our predictions. Our assumption was that ISU were going to take this one, and my assumption now is they're about to sweep their opponents out. Syracuse, prove me wrong. I dare you to. A perfect sweep on the horizon if you can't even get a single goal in this series. And honestly, Taco, that's easier said than done with the way ISU's playing right now.
And I really want to underspell for a lot of people that this is not an insult on Syracuse when we say that this is going to be a test. It's just that so many teams come into CRL and then play a team like ISU, and they figure out in a game like this, oh, this is why we really have to grind. This is why you have to get in the scrims and be able to keep your hours up, because these games are so incredibly difficult. Gababy maybe trying to announce his input into the league, and not only is that going to prevent the perfect sweep, it's going to give Syracuse their first lead of the series.
First lead, first goal, first pretty much everything here. First goal for Gababy in the history of his play throughout CCA, considering, well, he is a freshman coming into this one, but it's only 45 seconds into this game. So I'm not going to write out ISU yet, considering they got 4 goals in game 1. It's very clear they have a comeback trail possible, and they might already get it. That is not a great touch in the corner, and Sith will take full advantage.
Oh, no, not like this. Poor Gavilan goes forward on this 50, but Sith gets it, and Patrick combines, and he can't even rescue it. That read is difficult, but you got to get some form of contact on it. So Syracuse, despite getting their first goal, is right back to square one. That's got to hurt.
I mean, they're trying to get better throughout the series. Game 1, they had quite literally 0% of the field covered. Then in Game 2, they got the back half covered, so that's like 50%. I'm going to give them, I guess, maybe like 60% because they technically did get a shot through, so some of the offense has to be working for them. That's not enough. You need to do a little bit more. ISU right now have proven that they are not a team that is going to go down easily. They are going to fight at every instance, and honestly, unless you're Gababy, I don't know if individually you're going to be able to make this work. I need more passing plays, more team plays out of this Syracuse side. What worked out to begin, can you do it again? Gav trying to do exactly that, but the shot out center is easily cleared by Sith.
Patrick sent that really far to the backside, which CG will read. Gababy Probably looking for a pass. Indeed he is. The problem is Gavilan was too far away. And even still, Sith was nearby, but I feel like Syracuse starting to throw it a bit out of whack for ISU. They're not getting the cleanest of reads, and that's really all I want. It's not necessarily being predicted. It's just that ISU is very good at playing their zones. And so if you can kind of get around that and play in ways that are a bit more tricky in your comms and be able to kind of throw them a curveball, I think that's really all they need. Notice just how much ISU feels like they're chasing this game as compared to 1 and 2.
Oh, absolutely. The issue is I'm also seeing that at Syracuse. A lot of these touches out of midfield are desperation dives, and occasionally they'll make contact, but there's rarely anybody there for the follow-up. So again, those team plays that they're definitely trying to go for at this point aren't connecting to the degree they need to. Good thing is they've got plenty of time to try and change that. Over half the game left here as ISU now maybe trying to get an offense of their own. They haven't had all too many outside of the single goal in this game. Second one, though, looking a bit lethal. My goodness, no mention. Fakes out the flip reset and pinches it on target. Gavilan is back for the save. At least that part hasn't changed here for Syracuse. The defense still steadfast as ever.
That's good 50 by Gavilan. He might actually get the extension. CG, I think, called the bluff on the low boost play, and it's good that he did. Otherwise, that would have been up and over for Gav. Speaking of, that one is another one up and over. That should be an open shot for CG. If not, for Patrick, he's in the way, but he can't be big enough. CG to the far side for a lead.
CG been so clutch throughout this series here. He hasn't had a huge impact offensively, but when he does, he has been something special. That shot perfect as ever underneath the bar, tucked in for the 2-0. Now we really get to see what Syracuse is made of here. They did get the lead to begin this game, but it's been 2 unanswered goals. Can you find a way to come back here, or are we going to have to accept that this might not be the start of summer series you wanted?
At the end of the day, you just got to hang your head high and be able to take some of these series on the chin. But if you're still in the game, you got 2 minutes. You're fine. And I know Syracuse, they're all competitors. They've been in scenarios, I'm sure, like this before. Problem is, they're really going to have to dig deep now, as that's a giveaway. No Mansion will make no mistake.
And this is the big issue, is that mistakes are being made on the other end, and so quickly ISU are there to punish. We talked about it in Game 1. It wasn't exactly prevalent in Game 2, with the singular goal being the only goal that makes it through. But here in Game 3, that's 2 goals off of misplays in the corner. I don't know if I can excuse that, Syracuse, and I don't know if you guys can excuse it either. You need to find a way back here. With 2 minutes to go, it is definitely enough time to at least send us to OT. And for the sake of you guys not having a, I'd say, less than ideal start to the summer, I'd suggest trying to get to OT as well.
At the end of the day, it has to come from the backfield, because a lot of these plays, they're just under the gun, they're getting 50s in, they're getting kind of awkward reads, and then when they do get forward, then they don't really know what to do with it. It's the hardest part about playing a lot of defense. You never have boost to be able to extend. Gababy chase that one down, gets a little faked out by CG. I don't know if they meant to do that, but either way, understood that there wasn't too much stress on that play, as Gavilan will continue out of the corner. Gababy from an angle, well met by Sith yet again.
Out to midfield, no Mansion, trying to see if he can make a transition play work out, but Baby says otherwise. Good challenge at mid, but there is no follow-up. Patrick's up for this to meet CG, but he's given now enough time for ISU to set up in the half and get a goal. That could be the dagger. 55 to go, and it's a 4th goal for ISU.
And of course, we give No Mansion so much credit because obviously he has so much of the glue for ISU, but look at CG on the shooting clinic he's had. A couple times now, he has been able to slot that goal, and even though that is maybe the not most mechanically impressive goal, it is, in terms of a mental standpoint, great. All of Syracuse on the line. They have pretty much everything covered. Why power it as hard as possible in the middle of the goal when you can just slowly roll it underneath everyone into that bottom corner?
If it works, it works, and so far, almost everything has worked out for ISU here, except for this. Never mind, it does. No Mansion. How do you win a 3v1? You know what? These are questions that we're not going to have answered today. No Mansion, though, still trying to put some more question marks on top of the defense here for a Syracuse, who, again, we said that was their highlight. I mean, it's still probably the highlight here, but ISU just dismantling them left, right, and center. They have found so many ways to poke holes in the defense. Can Gavilan do the same? No, he cannot. Overcomplicated. That was open. He did not need that reset.
Yeah, at the end of the day, with 0 boost, you feel like you have to extend it. You don't just want to push it forward as fast as possible, but either way, past decisions might haunt him. This is something for the VOD review a little bit later on in the week. It's Illinois State coming in, taking care of business. They're going to finalize our final game of the night here on the CCA broadcast with a sweep.
Well, look, there's not many positives to take away from that one, but Syracuse, you can at least take some solace in the fact that you did not get perfect swept for your debut.
Hey.
I don't know if there's much else here that we can really be complimentary of, though. It was good defense. I'll give them that as well. But, Taco, it felt like every moment we were looking at this Syracuse team and being like, you guys are back into it. Your defense is better, offense is better, you're doing well. And then all of a sudden, it's silly mistakes that, as we've mentioned, if you make them at this level, they're going to get punished.
Yeah, if you're able to maintain a defensive structure and be able to get those saves, that's one thing. But it's also about those transition plays. Sometimes when you are playing defense, I notice a lot of teams get into this kind of weird defeatist mindset where they say, all right, well, we're getting hit so much that, it's going to be really hard to get offense. I think we just need to start like pushing forward and be really aggressive. But then it gets into those situations where, hey, let's just dive at a 50 as fast as possible. And then it deflects into Patrick. And then he has to bail out of that one. And then it's just one of those situations where didn't rush that play, it would be fine, which is why I think losses like this are natural for any team at the top. You have to kind of watch the back and say, okay, so we get into the event, but that's only half the battle. If we want to be able to compete for playoffs, those games, series, have to be a bit more competitive. So Syracuse will be back, but ISU, they are so back into this new season.
I would agree with that one just a little bit. ISU definitely silencing the haters, if you will, kind of, answering a lot of the questions. The doubts are no longer there. This is a team we knew were good last year. Again, we talk about it, great litmus test. They beat Northwood White last year, and then I think they ended up losing to Akron Gold. Weirdest middle of the pack team ever, but when they take big games, you can see why they do so. Syracuse, you learned pretty quickly why they do so, and now we get to learn what else has happened throughout the day. Bring back in Vaught. He can do us a quick little recap here as we close out our night for Summer Series.
Yeah, that was an interesting series. I knew there was either potential for ISU to do really well or really shaky. And this was the ISU that has been consistent recently for their results, and that's what we hope to see for the rest of their matches going on later into Summer Series. And talking about these results, Sith, really a big name for getting those goals and aggressiveness that we saw her throughout that series. Do we expect similar things in these following series from this squad of Illinois State University going into the remainder of the season?
I think for me, yes. It was a rarity for me to go against Illinois State, and then when I did it, I immediately was like, okay, this was why I kept picking them before. And yes, I know that they are one of those middle of the pack teams, like everybody says a lot of the times, but they are like the better of them. And if there is somebody to kind of find a way to sneak their way on through to the top, especially again after what feels like the god awful longest off season on earth, this team probably took for the better part of their time off in a good way.
They were ready. They were training in their arc, ready for everything to come out on top in Summer Series if they can make that push. And there's a lot of teams that are trying to make their names known throughout that. But let's take one final look at the results on how things went down throughout the day today. We got a little bit of everything. We got a 3-0 sweep, got a reverse sweep, and we got a 3-1. That's all you can really ask for the series to start off Summer Series here. But teams, make sure you're signing up to be on those stream slots for next week too. Hit up Parkour Penguin if you're listening right now, please, so we can get some good matches from those matchups coming forward. And every team except 3 has played in the West so far. For what we've seen, Kansas, Mizzou, and St. Edwards, we're still looking for a lot more teams in the East to play some starter matches. But out of these results that we have seen here, Bass, what was your biggest surprise or disappointment, I guess you could say, too?
Well, okay, all right. I'm going to say disappointment quickly because I don't want to bully them further. It's got to be Syracuse for what was almost a perfect sweep against them. Biggest surprise, though, might be Colorado here. We talked about it. Monterey were a good litmus test for them, and Monterey did not play badly. They actually had a couple of really good games. But when Colorado got going, I started to understand the hype a little bit more. People have been talking about this team's been good for a hot moment. Like we mentioned, they've won national championships outside of CCA. I'm starting to see why. This team could be a real threat within the West, but it's just day one. I'm not going to quite call it yet.
We know Maryville is inevitable, at least for the potential top 6 with taking down almost half of the conference in the West. But speaking of these conferences, let's take a look at the East standings and how things have developed after the matches today. As I mentioned, there hasn't really been as many matches going on so far. Only 6 teams had played up to this point in time. But Taco, of those teams who haven't played yet, who are you most excited to see?
Obviously West Virginia, definitely a team that is turning a lot of heads. A national champion winner in the NACE qualifier, or in the NACE League coming over there. But obviously you have Northwood coming in with Creams, kind of a new look on them. So clearly they're always like a team that reaches towards the top. And at the end of the day, though, it's always going to be Davenport. There's so many questions about this team. I'm so,
So
fascinated
true.
to see. They look so deadly on paper, but as we know, there's so many teams that should be insane, but you actually just have to show up and prove it.
And that's going to be the exciting thing. Bass, what are your thoughts on that team?
I was going to say, there's only one more team I want to shout out before we move off of East. Akron. Let's not forget, we have not seen New Akron yet, man. I want to see that Akron team so dang badly. Not only is it Tristan's last hurrah because he's graduating after this, but also, dude, 5UP is one of the biggest names we've had join Collegiate in a hot moment. I am ready to see that guy play.
Don't let Seb hear you say that because he's really big on creams and a chance for Canadian representative, to potentially win Summer Series. So we'll see if WVU go back-to-back. We'll see if any of their squads are able to take the title from them instead. There is a lot of great competition when thinking about that top 6 for the East. But let's switch gears over to the Western Conference here, Herc. I mean, we saw Maryville dominate thus far, but they haven't played the team in St. Edwards. How are we feeling St. Edwards is going to do this time around?
Oh my god, it's so... Any school that you guys see location is Texas next to their name, just know it's a coin flip. Like, you truly
so
don't
true.
know what you're going to get from them. You could get, like, the craziest, coolest team ever, or you could get the most Texas team ever, and everybody looks like
yes.
they're a Cowboys player. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on St. Edwards. Side thing... I really want to know what Maryville did. I just want to know if they just, like, hit up a bunch of people and they're like, yo, we're scheduling this out, like, this week. I want to get, like, half of it done already. Like, boom, 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 boom. But, honestly, that shows motivation, and I respect
That does. It is a different change for the West, where they're usually the ones who are lagging behind to finish their matchups before the last day of the season. So good for Maryville at least getting ahead of things here. But Taco, I mean, you got to see a lot of those matchups and seeing the teams that they faced off against. Who do you think has the most potential out of these squads that, yes, may have played or may have not played to push into that top 6?
I mean, one thing that we definitely have to pay attention to, and this is going to be a little bit surprising for people who might have paid attention in the past, but not necessarily recently, University of Oregon has looked really good. Out of all the teams Maryville has faced, almost all of them are sweeps. Some of them are game 4s. I believe one of them. And Oregon was in game 5, almost a reverse sweep. According to Imminent on them, one Zen at 0 seconds had a post hit and went out.
Oh, no.
And so they could have potentially forced an overtime and been able to push on and beat Maryville, but they didn't. So we have not seen this new look Oregon. One Zen is a transfer from, I believe, Arizona State. And so being able to see this new look, even though it's 0-1, I do not anticipate them getting too many more L's in that column if they can stand up to Maryville and replicate that style of play.
We just got some more results that came through. Borregos down another series. Unfortunately, SCSU took a 3-1 victory over them just recently, as we get that one in the background. 3-1 victory there. So some comeback potential for Borregos. They've typically been, towards the latter half of these standings. I think it was like 15th we saw in CRL last time, and then also top 16 finish for Summer Series before that. So they have their work cut out for them, but we know they have the potential to do it, especially a lot of these teams can upset and move forward. I mean, Borregos, the best run we have seen from that squad was almost pushing into the playoffs and just got like 1 or 2 games off of it. So a lot of teams that you are excited to see, I mean, they still have chances. There's still potential for them to make their way into that top 6, depending on which region they are in. But the East, I feel like, is going to be a bloodbath, a death race to the finish, Mad Max style, as we see who makes it all the way into that top 6, because no one's coming out unscathed, Bass.
No, they're not. It's going to make predicting this entire bracket just so much more difficult. If you guys want to, by the way, tune into predictions, want to learn about that. Champ League, every Friday, we do it here on this channel, and literally all of us participate in it. So, come through, 3:30 PST on Friday. Yeah, come through and tune in. Regardless, point here, without me shilling my own show, I would like to see, maybe a little bit more before we even really try to make any predictions here, because it does kind of feel like it's going to be
hard,
similar to what we saw. Well, I think it's going to be similar to what we saw at ISU last time. Bro, ISU started off like something like 3-0. Like, it was quite literally immediately they took down Northwood White. They took down a bunch of good teams. And then we all bought in and we were like, 8th best team in the country. These guys are insane. They're making playoffs. And then very quickly it fell apart. So I'm going to say East is going to be a bloodbath, but I think we're going to start to get a real idea of what it's going to be like probably around weeks 2 or 3. Once we see some of the bigger heads kind of clash, I think that's where it's really going to see. Similarly, that's kind of why I don't even want to say Maryville's the golden children yet. Like, yes, they beat Boise. But I
And
still think there are
Columbia.
a couple. They beat Boise and
I
Columbia.
mean-
There's still a couple of teams I want to see them face. LCU
Fair.
might not be LCU anymore, but they are still LCU to a degree. St. Edwards is still St. Edwards. I want to see them play them. And again, I mean, Oregon, yeah, you might not be able to technically pass Maryville anymore, but I'd love to see where they might finish up in this bracket.
There's so much potential for a lot of these teams out there. I mean, Taco, what are your final thoughts for things before we send things away and kind of get into gear for Champ League on Friday and also the next week of competition next Wednesday?
I mean, unfortunately, we started on a holiday week, so I think a lot of players are just out and about, taking care of things, and eventually we'll get back in. I don't know if they're going to be playing 7 series in one day, looking at you, Maryville, but at the end of the day, if they do, it's more stuff for us to talk about, and the reason I love Summer Series, and also just fun fact for everyone else about this, is that this is a unique competition within the collegiate scene because it's not always just enrolled students or currently on the roster. It is a mixture of players who are currently enrolled, players who just graduated previous semester, and also players who will be full-time students starting in the fall. So it's a true experimentation kind of landscape where everyone gets to see the preview for all the rosters, the last hurrah for some of the legends of our scene, like Buddy, like Tristan, and others. And so I think stuff like that makes it really a fascinating tournament to watch. It gives us a lot to talk about. And obviously, as you can tell by a lot of the matches tonight, they're all just super entertaining.
Oh, always entertaining, always exciting. And speaking of excitement, Herc, what are you most excited for the remainder of the league play regular season 4 Summer Series before we send things away?
Honestly, I'm excited for all these newer teams that kind of started to sneak in and to see what they're capable of. I'm going to make mention to it like a million times throughout the summer, but it has been so long for some of these teams, which
True.
means plans have been cooking. People had time to formulate the exact roster that they wanted, and I am so excited to see if some of these plans actually end up panning out the way that they were hoping and expecting.
We'll see how things pan out for the 16 teams in each conference. Thank you all for turning in to the first week of the CCA Summer Series 24, sponsored by Nelnet Bank. I've been Bottle. We've had Bass from the past, Danger Taco, and Hercules here on the broadcast. Seth will be joining you as your host for next week. I'll be taking a break for my birthday, and I'll see you then.
Your dream is the first step on your educational path. Let Nelnet Bank help you go from dreamer to achiever with a private student loan. Simple application process, flexible repayment plans, and easy co-signing options. Apply at nelnetbank.com/elevate.